Chapter 4966. At the entrance of the 1,000-mountain cave, the array flickered, indicating that it was under attack. Who dared to behave atrociously in the 1,000-mountain cave? Countless guards walked out, their killing intent soaring into the sky. It had been a long time since anyone dared to behave atrociously here. Was there someone who dared to behave atrociously here again? Seeing that there were so many people, the guard's expression changed. He asked, "Which sector you from? Do you have a visiting card?" "Why, does the 1,000-mountain cave not recognize me anymore?" Lin Xian sneered and walked over. The guards were confused, but one of them narrowed his eyes. "It's you. You didn't die. You're back." It was as if he had seen the most terrifying thing. This young man had caused a huge storm back then, but he had only entered the ethereal peak. Now, he was back. One could only imagine what kind of storm was going to happen next. Who was he? The other guards were confused. Was this young man very scary? The guard wanted to say something, but his scalp went numb in the next moment. The others' eyes popped out. They saw the young man in front of them waving his hand, and their protective array was torn apart like a piece of paper. The entire process was smooth, and there was no pause at all. What kind of power was that? Perhaps only their old ancestor could do that. Thinking of this, these guards sat down on the ground, their faces full of shock. Lin Xian ignored them. A golden glow appeared in his eyes. Then he squinted his eyes. His body flashed, and he flew in a direction. In the hall in front, there were many people around. Blood dyed the sky red, and the cries made one's scalp go numb. Yan Mo sneered and looked at Xian Hai, who was kneeling on one knee, and said coldly, "Do you still dare to go against me?" Damn it, Xian Hai gritted his teeth. He was unwilling to accept this. "All right, what are your last words?" "You can go to hell now." Yan Mo pulled out a killing sword and walked over. "After so many years, I didn't expect you to be in such a sorry state." At the critical moment, a calm voice sounded. Xian Hai raised his head in shock. "Is someone here to save us?" Yan Mo's face darkened. "Who is it? Come out." With a cold shout, he swept his gaze in all directions. The guards in the surroundings also extended their souls to search for the person. "There's no need to search because I didn't intend to hide." The voice sounded again as a figure walked over. "Who are you?" The surrounding sages roared. Yan Mo was stunned. Xian Hai's pupils shrank. It was him. How could he forget this person? It was precisely because of this person that her daughter had disappeared and her entire bloodline had become prisoners. Despicable brat. "You still dare to come back?" He let out an animalistic roar. "Who's back? Was it she? An old voice came from the main hall. It was intermittent and extremely agitated. He could die at any moment. Lin Xian's brows furrowed even tighter when he heard this. His aura was too weak. Xian Hai said that his father was Lin Xian. He had returned. What? Lin Xian? You're Lin Xian. The surrounding guards also roared crazily. They were well aware that their 1,000-mountain cave was currently weaker than the other 5 great caves. There were many reasons. It was because a Lin Xian had appeared in their cave and dared to challenge Ethereal Peak. Was it this brat in front of them? "Brat, you still dare to come back? I'll capture you and send you to Ethereal Peak. Then our 1,000-mountain cave will have done a great service. At that time, our status will be restored." Yan Mo smiled. He was very happy. "Just you?" Lin Xian snorted coldly. At this moment, dozens of streams of light streaked across the distance and instantly arrived behind Lin Xian, forming a huge team. Xian Hai was stunned. He didn't expect Lin Xian to bring so many people back. Yan Mo laughed. "Ha ha ha, brat, do you think you can compete with me just because you brought people here?" He could tell that the people around him were all young people. How strong could a group of young people be? Back then, Lin Xian could escape because of Xiantian Pavilion's help. But what about Xiantian Pavilion now? He knew very well that Xiantian Pavilion probably didn't exist anymore. Without the Xiantian Pavilion as a trump card, would Lin Xian be able to contend against them? Young man, I don't know where you get your courage from. You probably didn't go to Xiantian Pavilion, right? You have no trump card left. Kneel down obediently, and I'll suppress you. Sure, let's see if you have the qualifications. Lin Xian walked over without any defense. I'll give you 3 chances. Can you suppress me? I'll give you my head. Stupid, and do you think you can be arrogant after training outside for a period of time? Do you know that my strength has increased during this period of time as well? Yan Emma roared and slapped over. His killing intent was shocking. This attack was enough to destroy any young genius. Clang! A deafening sound rang out, causing the ears of the surrounding people to bleed. A figure suddenly retreated. Damn it, what a strong physique. Yan Emo clutched his palm with an ugly expression. Lin Xian stood there with his hands behind his back. This is your improvement over the years. Huh? You're pitifully weak. Aunt. Toad sneered. The people from the Divine Union were also mocking him. You want to fight against our boss with this kind of strength? Stop joking. Damn it, you're underestimating me. Yan Emo roared and threw out 2 consecutive punches that were like peerless suns. Boom, boom. The sky fell, and the earth cracked. He should be dead this time. The martial artist from Xiantian Pavilion snorted coldly. Xianhai frowned. This brat is courting death, as always. He had actually angered Yan Mo. Lin Xian's figure appeared from the crack in the void. His body was spotless, and he wasn't injured at all. 3 punches are over. I've given you a chance, but you don't have the strength to suppress me. Now, take my move. After 1 palm, all grievances were resolved. Bang! Lin Xian slapped over. He didn't even use the fearless lion seal or the 6 path fists. He only relied on the strength of his divine body. No. Yan Mo was terrified. His 3 punches couldn't hurt the other party. What kind of physique was this? Could it be that this brat had some fortuitous encounter outside? Damn it, he had been too careless. Especially when he felt the power of that palm strike, he was even more alarmed. He was invincible. This made him feel like he was facing an old ancestor. He quickly retreated. Mysterious runes flashed under his feet and brought him away in an instant. He dodged the palm by a hair's breadth. Only a few gusts of wind swept across his body. Ha 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 ha. Yan Mo was furious. Brat, I thought you were amazing. You can't hit me either? As soon as he finished speaking, he roared in horror. No, it can't be like this. His body shattered like porcelain and then spread throughout his body. With a crack, he turned into a bloody mist. How can this be? His soul was also torn apart by a terrifying force. Stupid thing. Lin Xian shook his head. Do you think you can resist my palm wind? Chapter 4967. Dead. Xianhai's face was pale, and his body was trembling. Just a palm strike was enough to kill Yan Mo. What kind of power was that? That was the power of a great sage. Could it be that this kid had already become a great sage? Yan Mo was dead, and the surrounding guards were in an uproar. Kid, you're dead. The sagely heaven's old master won't let you off. Let's go and report this to the old master. Lin Xian waved his hand, and the golden light turned into a divine sword, piercing through the hundreds of guards. All of them fell on the ground. Xianhai was even more terrified. He had killed a group of experts with just a raise of his hand. It was too scary. Lin Xian was no longer the person he knew. You're really pitiful. Lin Xian took a step forward and came before Xianhai. He looked down at the other party and said indifferently. Xianhai knelt on one knee, holding his wound, and looking up. When he saw Lin Xian's eyes, he felt like an ant talking to a dragon. Unable to withstand the pressure from Lin Xian, Xianhai spat out blood and fell into the main hall. Lin Xian stepped into the main hall, and he frowned. He saw a skeleton-like figure in front of him. Your old master Xian Hai. He couldn't believe that a great sage could be in such a pitiful state. Black Ice old master raised his head. When he saw Lin Xian, he was shocked. He wanted to stand up, but his bones were shaking, and he couldn't. At a glance, Lin Xian saw a black handprint on the man's body. It was obvious that he had been poisoned. You should kill the Yen devil, Black Ice ancestor said. You are in big trouble. The current 1,000 mountain grotto heaven belongs to forefather Sheng Tian. They have Ethereal Peak behind them. I heard that they've taken action against Xiantian Pavilion. You have no more trump cards. Leave quickly. At the same time, if you know where Qi is, tell her to never come back. Lin Xian listened expressionlessly, but the people behind him had weird expressions. Xiantian Pavilion no longer existed? It seemed like the news hadn't reached them yet. As for Thousand Mountain Cave, they were even more fearless. This time, he was here for revenge. Lin Xian said that he was here for revenge, so he would not let any of the people who tried to kill him go. As for the two of you, Xueqi's father and grandfather, I will spare you and not harm you. However, it is impossible for me to help you. Patriarch Xianhai laughed bitterly. He did not believe the other party's words. However, Xianhai's pupils shrank. He ran over and said, Young master, save my father. I know you have a way. Previously, he had been dismissive of Lin Xian. However, when he saw Lin Xian kill the face devil with just a palm wind, he was shocked. He knew that the young man in front of him was a completely different person from back then. The other party's methods might be able to save his father. Lin Xian remained unmoved. Xian Hai directly knelt down and said, For Chiver's sake, please help. Lin Xian frowned slightly and sighed. After all, this was Xueqi's flesh and blood. However, Lin Xian still had his principles. He said, If you want me to help, I can help. However, I have to collect your souls first. I have to see if you are related to the human world. If they were related to the human world, he would not harm them for Xueqi's sake, nor would he save them. He would let the two of them fend for themselves. However, if they were not related, he could help them. Cheater, everything is for your sake. Lin Xian thought to himself. Then, a golden radiance burst out from his eyes and enveloped the two people's souls. Xianhai wanted to resist, but Patriarch Xianming said, Don't resist. Xianhai knelt there and allowed Patriarch Xianming to read his soul. Lin Xian's expression was grave. After a while, he retracted his gaze. The two of them were nervous. Lin Xian said, You are lucky that you are not related to the human world. Black Ice ancestor smiled bitterly. The human world's power originated from Misty Peak and was then distributed among the 6 grotto heavens. Back then, it was obtained by Patriarch Sheng Tian's lineage. It was an extremely powerful assassination force. Because of this, they were jealous of it for a long time. They did not expect that it was because of this that they were saved. The affairs of the world were really unpredictable. Lin Xian waved his hand, and a terrifying sword was slashed at the black handprint. The great dragon sword spirit was destroyed, and all auras were destroyed. The black poison on the handprint quickly disappeared. Black Ice ancestor felt that his power was recovering. Did he succeed? Was he cured? She was really shocked. Xian Hai cried tears of joy. He had thought of many ways, but his father's condition did not improve at all. Now, Lin Xian cured his father's poison with just a ray of sword energy. This method was too shocking. Black Ice ancestor stood up. Although she was weak, she was fine. She said, Thank you, Lin Gongzi, for helping me. In the future, I will not refuse you. At the same time, we apologize for what happened in the past. I hope that you will let us go for the sake of Qi. Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back and said, It was good to recover, and be a wild crane. Patriarch Xian Hai's body trembled. Originally, he wanted to regroup and fight with Patriarch Xing Tian. But now, it seemed that Lin Xian Hai did not want him to care about anything anymore. Just as he was thinking, a crazy roar sounded in a hall of the 1,000-mountain grotto heaven. Patriarch Xing Tian looked at the soul jade tablet in his hand with red eyes. His son's soul jade tablet was broken, indicating that he was killed. Who dared to attack the Yanmo? Where did the Yanmo go? He roared crazily. Patriarch Xing Tian went to Black Ice Ancestor's residence. That old thing! How dare you attack my son? Go to hell! He was furious. Without caring about anything else, he slapped out with a huge palm that covered tens of thousands of miles. The void shattered, and countless people crawled. Xian Hai's face changed drastically. Not good. The great sage had attacked. Black Ice Ancestor's pupils constricted. The Patriarch Xing Tian had attacked again. Retreat. He had just been detoxified, and was no match for the other party. If he was hit, his soul might be destroyed. She and Xian Hai retreated quickly, but when they left the hall, her pupils constricted. She saw Lin Xian standing there with a look of disdain. Lin Xian threw out a punch in the face of this frightening palm. The six-path fist shattered the heavenly domain and shattered the huge palm. A pillar of light surged into the clouds, and countless laws danced in the sky. Was it broken? Black Ice Ancestor was stunned. She could not believe it. That was the attack of a great sage. Previously, the other party could kill the Yanmo because the Yanmo was only a great sage. Compared to a great sage, he was still too weak. Now, it seemed that Lin Xian could fight a great sage so easily. This person's strength had already exceeded his imagination. He took a deep breath and laughed bitterly. It was better not to have any tricks in front of the other party. He said to Xian Hai, "From now on, we will be two itinerant cultivators." Xian Hai nodded silently. His confidence had already been shattered. Right now, he just wanted to escape from this place and live in the remote mountains and swamps. Damn it! Patriarch Xing Tian roared crazily. Who could block his attack? Other than Black Ice Ancestor, there was no one else. Maybe Black Ice Ancestor was poisoned and injured? How could she have the strength to attack him? Chapter 4968. The Holy Heaven's Old Ancestor's face turned cold as he attacked again. He tore open the sky and descended quickly. At the next moment, he stood above the 9 heavens and saw a figure. "It's you. How dare you come back? Where are the people from the Xiantian pavilion? Tell them to come out." The Holy Heaven's Old Ancestor frowned. In his opinion, the one who had attacked him wasn't the young man in front of him, but the Xiantian pavilion behind him. However, the Xiantian pavilion shouldn't have been destroyed at this time. Could it be that some of them had escaped? Lin Xian looked at the Holy Heaven's Old Ancestor and said coldly, "After so many years, you still haven't made any progress." The people around felt their scalps go numb. Was this the attitude a young man should have towards the old ancestor? The Holy Heaven's Old Ancestor's face turned dark. "Since they won't come out, I'll suppress you personally." He waved his hand, and a terrifying long blade appeared in his hand. He slashed downwards. The dazzling blade light was unimaginable. This blade seemed to be able to sweep through everything. Fortunately, it was only aimed at Lin Xian. If it had slashed anywhere else, the entire grotto heaven would have been split open. Lin Xian wasn't afraid. He stretched out his hand and grabbed at the blade. Was he going to resist this peerless attack with his bare hands? Many people went crazy. The Holy Heaven's Old Ancestor was even more disdainful. Did this young man really think he was a god? Clang! An earth-shattering sound was heard. The blade slashed down on the palm, and countless thunderous sounds were heard. Then it was caught. How was this possible? The Holy Heaven's Old Ancestor couldn't believe it. Lin Xian let out a furious roar and shattered the blade light. Right away, he charged forward forcefully. Take a sword for me too. Behind him, a dragon flickered and turned into a sword dragon. Countless dragon scales condensed into a sword light. Lin Xian held it in his hand. The sword split the world. One of the holy heaven's old ancestors' arms was chopped off. How did you become so strong? He roared crazily. His opponent was only a sage king, but he could compete with him and even suppress him. This kid was too strange. He wanted to retreat. Lin Xian struck out with his palm. The seal of the fearless lion flew out. Damn it, he's too arrogant. The holy heaven's old ancestor was infuriated. He had retreated, but it didn't mean that he was afraid of the other party. He just didn't want to suffer any losses. Since the other party wanted to die, he would fulfill his wish. With a wave of his hands, a saintly heaven steel appeared. It's just the mark of a demonic beast. Suppress it. The sage heaven steel pressed down on the golden lion. The fearless lion roared with disdain. It danced and tore the sage heaven steel apart before pouncing towards the sage heaven old ancestor. Oh no, what kind of lion is this? It was too scary. The sacred heaven's old ancestor was scared, out of his wits. He was enveloped by a golden light, and his body was torn to pieces. His soul was slapped to the ground by the fearless lion. Was the patriarch defeated? The surrounding people from the 1,000-mountain cave trembled when they saw this. Then they all knelt on the ground. Damn it, let go of me. The holy heaven's old ancestor's soul roared, but he couldn't resist the fearless lion. And this was because Lin Xian had purposely not killed him. Otherwise, his body and soul would have been destroyed long ago. The sagely heaven's old ancestor roared, I am not dead yet. Inform Ethereal Peak and activate our foundation. He was really angry. He didn't believe that Lin Xian would dare to kill him. Soon, people retreated quickly. Some of them soared into the sky, preparing to inform the Ethereal Peak experts. The other part was to activate the so-called foundation. Roussillon, kill those who escaped. Lin Xian transmitted his voice. The crimson dragon's figure flashed, and the dragon scales on his back turned into a dragon blade that slashed towards the 9 heavens. Those who tried to escape were all killed. But as for those who activated their foundation, Lin Xian didn't stop them at all. Black Ice Ancestor was also shocked. Fortunately, she had already submitted and didn't dare to go against Lin Xian. Otherwise, she would probably end up in such a miserable state. She took a deep breath. Lin Gongzi's foundation isn't ordinary, so it's best not to activate it. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome. Lin Xian said, Is the foundation the power of the mortal world? Black Ice Ancestor nodded helplessly. Lin Xian was a killing god who could kill great saints of the same level like cutting vegetables. That's even better. I'm here to deal with the mortal world. Just you? The sacred heaven ancestor's soul sneered. You can't even block a finger. You'll die soon. The earth trembled, and a shocking killing intent emerged. Then it was as if the god of death had descended. Even the people of the divine union felt their hair stand on end. It seemed like an incredible assassin had awakened. 3 figures were hidden in black robes, holding 3 killing swords in their hands. They disappeared in an instant, appearing and disappearing mysteriously. Wong! Cold laughter rang out, and with a flash of sword light, the fearless lion was split in half. The sacred heaven ancestor's soul was able to escape. He fled into the distance, roaring crazily. Kid, let's see how you'll die. Lin Xian frowned. This was indeed an ancient assassin. He was indeed valiant. His figure flashed, and he took out the heaven-devouring jar and shook it gently. A boundless black vortex enveloped the crimson dragon and the people of the divine union. He wasn't afraid, but he was afraid that these people would attack the people of the divine union. Black vortexes appeared beside by Susu and the others, swallowing everything. Indeed, as soon as this was done, swordlight slashed toward the Crimson Dragon and Bai Susu. Fortunately, the black vortex swallowed the sword light directly. What a strange, devouring vortex. Let's get rid of this kid first. The three ancient assassins discussed for a while, then charged toward Lin Xian. When these people attacked, even great sages would feel their hair stand on end. The power was extremely terrifying. At this moment, everyone was worried for Lin Xian. The space where Lin Xian was instantly shattered. Countless clanging sounds came from his body, and there were even sword scars appearing on some parts of his body. They were indeed ancient assassins. They were indeed strong enough to threaten him. He roared, and his divine body completely erupted. Divine flames swept out, burning heaven and earth. The entire void shattered, and three blurry figures appeared. They tore through the void and retreated into the distance. Lin Xian threw out the six-path fists and chased after them, attacking one of them. That person swung his sword back like a dragon. The two of them collided, and then they both retreated. Fresh blood dripped from the void. Lin Xian sneered. "That's all there is to it. What a strong physique. You actually managed to injure me. However, today is the day you die." The injured assassin said coldly. Then he disappeared again. Heaven and earth quietened down. Even the killing intent was gone. The Crimson Dragon and the others were extremely nervous. This was the most dangerous situation. If they could even hide their killing intent, who would be able to discover them? Lin Xian seemed to be at his wit's end. However, a golden radiance flickered in his eyes. His divine eyes looked at heaven and earth, burning the world. Lin Xian's heavenly secret god eyes swept across the 9 heavens and 10 lands. His soul flame floated out. In the void, a roar was heard. A figure, whose body was on fire, looked extremely ferocious. "Damn it, it's a soul attack. Kill him." He let out a miserable cry. The other two rushed over without a care for anything else. Chapter 4969. It was a sure-kill sword. It seemed to have traveled through time and space, arriving in front of Lin Xian and slashing down on Lin Xian's body. The two swords slashed at the same spot and actually split open Lin Xian's body. The 10,000 dragon divine blood fell. However, the two swords were still held by Lin Xian. "This time, you won't be able to escape." Endless sword light burst out from his body. The sharpness of the sword energy was even more terrifying than the two swords. The two of them were instantly pierced and screamed as they retreated. They realized that their wounds couldn't heal. "Damn it, who are you? When did the 1,000 mountain grotto heaven offend such a terrifying existence?" They looked at the sacred heaven's old ancestor. The sacred heaven's old ancestor's face was extremely pale. He was originally proud and thought that the other party would definitely die after summoning the world of men. However, that was not the case at all. Even the 3 assassins couldn't do anything to the other party. Leave this place. This kid is too terrifying. He's not someone you and I can fight against. Super physique, terrifying eye techniques, and that black jar. It was very similar to the legendary heaven swallowing jar. In addition, his sword energy was extremely sharp. It was definitely a supreme Dharma treasure. How could such a person appear in this area? The other party should be in the more terrifying ancient city and family. Why would he come to such a remote place, as expected of the world of men? You're really knowledgeable. You even recognize my body. Since that's the case, it's not up to you. Lin Xian attacked. They split up and fled. The 3 from the world of men flew in 3 different directions. He didn't believe that Lin Xian could kill all 3 of them at the same time. Lin Xian sneered and threw out the heaven-swallowing jar and the dragon sword soul at one of them. Then he attacked the 3rd person. How could those 2 be a match for the heaven-swallowing jar and the dragon sword soul? They were instantly killed. As for the third person, he exchanged 30 moves with Lin Xian and was torn in half by Lin Xian. Was he dead? The three of them were about to die. The sacred heaven's old ancestor was so scared that his face turned pale. He turned and fled. Lin Xian waved his hand and grabbed the sacred heaven's old ancestor's soul. Don't you think it's too late to leave now? Young master, please spare me. It was all Misty Peak's idea. I was really helpless and had no choice. Now, in order to save his life, he poured all the dirty water on Misty Peak. What a good, I can't help it. You're really shameless. Lin Xian sneered, unmoved. He wouldn't let him live, so he directly ignited his soul. In the end, old ancestor Xingtian also died. At this moment, nearly half of the warriors in the 1,000 Mountain Cave were kneeling on the ground, had their ancestor died. Lin Xian turned around and looked down from above like a god, overlooking the mortals. As the flames swept past these people, the souls of a few of them directly burned and turned into ashes. These were all old ancestor Xingtian's trusted aides. As for the holy heaven's ancestors' people, they had all been killed by him. In an instant, the entire grotto heaven. The situation had changed drastically. Black Ice Ancestor and Xian Hai immediately bowed their heads. From now on, the 1,000 Mountain Grotto Heaven will be ruled by the young master. The others also bowed to Lin Xian and paid their respects to the young master. Lin Xian waved his hand. From now on, there would be no 1,000 Mountain Grotto Heaven, only Wushuang City. Not only the heavenly Mountain Grotto Heaven, but the other 5 Grotto Heavens would also cease to exist, even Misty Peak. I will overturn it. Lin Xian's eyes shone with a cold light. Countless people were shocked. Would the Grotto Heaven cease to exist? To be honest, although 1,000 Mountain Grotto Heaven was inconspicuous in the entire Alcade continent, in this area it was second only to Misty Peak. Now that it no longer existed, it was really hard for these people to imagine. But the young man in front of them was like a god, and no one dared to resist. They could only accept this fact. Yuren, I'll leave this to you, Lin Xian said in a deep voice. Yuren walked out. Young master, don't worry. Lin Xian looked at Black Ice Ancestor again. I will go to the other Grotto Heavens. In the meantime, I don't want anything to happen to 1,000 Mountain Grotto Heaven. Young master, don't worry. This old man understands. Black Ice Ancestor walked out and said loudly. Now that the sect was sealed, no news was allowed to spread out. Anyone who violated this rule would be punished according to the sect rules. As for the others, they naturally did not have any objections. After all, one of the 2 old masters was dead. Now that there was only one left, they naturally did not dare to resist. Lin Xian led the others and left quickly. Go, go, go. Take revenge. Previously, they had become battle servants. But now it was just 1,000 Mountain Grotto Heaven. The other Grotto Heavens would have to bear their wrath as well. Purple Spirit Grotto Heaven. Fu Hongya would never forget the torture he had gone through here. Therefore, he challenged them forcefully the moment he arrived. This was especially so for the young men under the Great Elder. All of them were crippled by Fu Hongya. The Great Elder roared, but was killed by Lin Xian in a single slap. Not only that, the same scene was happening in the other Grotto Heavens. Everyone in the Grotto Heavens were in despair. They realized that the battle servants from back then had returned, and they had become so terrifying. These young geniuses were no match for them. In fact, they themselves were no match for these young men. Damn it, what had these people gone through? This was great. Fu Hongya, Lu Yuan, Gao Jianfei, and the others roared. They had finally taken revenge. However, this was not the end. They knew that Lin Xian was going to strike once more. He was going to destroy the 6 Grotto Heavens and build Matchless City. Naturally, a huge battle would break out in the process. Lin Xian could not possibly strike out at all 5 grotto heavens at the same time. Therefore, after destroying 3 grotto heavens, the remaining 3 reacted instantly. Knowing that they were no match for him, they fled immediately and reported to Ethereal Peak. After Ethereal Peak received the news, their faces changed. Someone had already destroyed 3 grotto heavens consecutively. How could this be? Why did they not receive any news at all? Could it be that they were joking? Everyone from Ethereal Peak was stunned. However, when they arrived at the 3 grotto heavens, they were all kneeling on the ground. They said that they were lucky that the other party did not lay a hand on them. However, those 3 grotto heavens were indeed destroyed. Even many of the young geniuses of their families were crippled. Who was it? Ethereal Peak frowned. Was it a top sect from another region who had come to challenge them? No, it was Lin Xian. It was that lad from back then. He was back. Lin Xian. Everyone from Ethereal Peak was stunned. They then let out a sharp killing intent. This was a name that they naturally remembered. It was this young man who had once challenged them and caused them to lose so much face. To think that he would be back again. Impossible. The elder of the star race shook his head. How could a young man like him have such strength? Back then, he had the Xiantian sect backing him. However, the Xiantian sect should have been long gone by now. We don't know. The people from the 3 grotto heavens shook their heads. These people had escaped, but the grotto heavens were still around. After the elites of the remaining 3 grotto heavens had escaped, they were no match for Lin Xian and the others. Soon, they were conquered as well. Eventually, the 6 grotto heavens disappeared. Matchless City was built. Chapter 4970. Peerless City was established. It was announced to the world. The sects and clans in the area were in an uproar. Had the grottos disappeared and become history? Peerless City. What was that? Ethereal Peak. This time, they were the first to receive the news. Following which, their faces turned extremely ugly. The 6 grottos no longer existed. The other party had even established a new sect. This was going against Ethereal Peak. Lin Xian, an ant, how dare you challenge Ethereal Peak? I'll let you know that even if you have Xiantian Pavilion or other forces behind you, you're still no match for us. Ethereal Peak let out a cold-killing intent. After Lin Xian conquered the 6 grottos, he did not attack Ethereal Peak immediately. Instead, he rested. He wanted to integrate the 6 grottos. The 6 grottos were far apart from each other. Lin Xian swallowed 5 grottos directly. Only 1,000 grottos were left. Furthermore, the grottos were officially changed and Peerless City was established with them as the foundation. The martial artists in the area were in a heated discussion. Oh heavens! Was someone going to challenge Ethereal Peak's position as the overlord? Who knew what kind of background Peerless City had? Too strong. The 6 grottos were destroyed in the blink of an eye. What kind of strength was that? Countless discussions rang out, and these voices were transmitted to Ethereal Peak. The people of Ethereal Peak were furious. Damn it! How dare they look down on us? These stupid ants. Are they looking to die? There were also people who said that it seemed like Ethereal Peak had not shown their strength for a long time. To think that a young man would dare to behave so atrociously above their heads, gather our strength, and attack Peerless City. I'll let them destroy as quickly as they build. Ethereal Peak was enraged. They gathered their experts and moved out quickly. Today, they set off. The sects and clans in the area went up to Peerless City to congratulate them. At the same time, they wanted to befriend Peerless City. Therefore, Peerless City was extremely lively today. For such a matter, Lin Xian did not even appear. He let Nalan Liang and Yuren handle it. Old ancestor Xianhai and the others looked at this scene in disbelief. They felt that Lin Xian was even more mysterious and terrifying. This young man had used thunderous methods to overturn the situation in this region that had existed for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. This was simply the means of a god. However, they were not at ease because they knew that the Misty Peak would not let this matter rest. If even the combined forces of the Six Paradise weren't a match for the Misty Peak, not to mention that they had been suppressed for thousands of years, one could only imagine how frightening the Misty Peak was. Could this Lin Xian really withstand it? Outside, there was a sea of people. It was incomparably lively, and there were voices of congratulations everywhere. However, at this moment, dark clouds covered the sky, and a terrifying aura pressed down. Everyone raised their heads with fear on their faces. Black Ice Ancestors' pupils shrank. Is it coming? I have an extremely bad feeling. Lin Xian, get out here and face your death. A terrifying voice rang out, shattering the 9 heavens. Terrifying laws fell down from the sky. The people of the clans and sects below quickly retreated in fear. Oh no! Are the people of Misty Peak here? Above the black clouds, there were countless figures. 8 of them were exceptionally terrifying. They were the 8 elders of the ethereal peak. The 8 of them were like gods and demons, standing above the 9 heavens. Not good. Black Ice Ancestors' pupils shrank. To think that the Misty Peak would be so generous. In an instant, they sent 8 great sages, followed by countless powerful beings. This strength was enough to sweep through everything. Those who came to congratulate felt their scalps tingle. They were in despair. They felt that they had made a decision that they regretted. It seemed a little too early to congratulate so many people. That's right. Even though the Misty Peak did not make a move all year round, their position as the overlord was something that no one dared to challenge. You Run and the others had grim expressions. Bai Susu, Crimson Dragon, and the others walked out as well. Are you guys from the Misty Peak? Bai Susu shouted coldly. In front, the 8 great sages of the Misty Peak frowned. All of them were young. How dare a bunch of young ants go against us? They all knelt by the side, obediently. How dare you attack the 6 Paradise and challenge the Misty Peak? You guys don't know what's good for you. Kneel down and accept your death. We'll give you a quick death. As for that Lin Xian, we'll tear him into pieces and let him know the fate of living a life worse than death. The 8 great sages emitted a torrential aura. Countless people around them knelt down. Behind them were the people from the 3 paradises. Looking at this scene, they sneered. What Lin Xian? He couldn't even be compared to the Misty Peak. Just 8 great sages? Bai Susu's face was filled with disdain. Crimson Dragon and the others sneered as well. To be honest, this lineup was terrifying in the eyes of others, but it was nothing in front of them. One should know that back in the Taoist sex event, those who came were all great sages. In fact, there were quite a number of great sages in the late and pinnacle stages. Bai Susu had seen such scenes many times. How could 8 great sages scare her? Another 8 people came. Lin Xian walked out and shook his head. Too little. Did the Misty Peak send you guys to die? Kid, it's you. When the people of the Misty Peak saw Lin Xian, their eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. One of the elders waved his hand, and a cold light slashed forward. He wanted to kill Lin Xian by surprise. But how could such a small move hurt Lin Xian? Lin Xian smashed the attack with a single palm. He then activated his eye technique. The great sage screamed. His soul was injured. His body swayed, and his face was pale. You want to sneak up on me? I'm afraid you don't have what it takes. Countless people were shocked. The faces of the people of the Misty Peak turned ugly. This guy could hurt a great sage. Unbelievable. Could it be that this young man had already become a great sage? What kind of cultivation speed was this? He remembered that when this guy left, he wasn't even a Saint King. How could he be a great sage now? They were going crazy. But when they sensed him carefully, they realized that he didn't have the aura of a great sage. The elder of the star tribe gritted his teeth. Everyone, don't hesitate. This kid is strange. If we let him grow, he will be our nightmare in the future. Let's attack together and kill him now to prevent future troubles. That's right. The other great sages nodded. 8 great sages walked forward together. Every step they took caused the sky to collapse. Countless people vomited blood and retreated. The people of the divine union sneered. Lin Xian was even more fearless. Now, the heaven-devouring jar. The reason why Lin Fan had devoured the 5 paradise and refined all of their powers was for this very moment. He took out the great dragon sword soul and slashed out. The 8 great sages attacked together with the confidence of being invincible, but under this sword, their confidence collapsed. 1 sword and 4 great sages were destroyed. The other 4 were severely injured and fled. Run. They fled back to the Misty Peak. The others were also scared out of their wits and fled quickly. The people below were stunned. Was this really the Misty Peak? When they came, they were as mighty as gods. But now, they were like stray dogs. The confidence of the people of the Misty Peak collapsed. How could they have known that the sword would be so terrifying? Lin Xian chased after them casually. Chapter 4971. Ethereal Peak was also waiting, but they weren't worried. After sending out 8 great sages, Wushuang City should have been destroyed long ago. However, not long after, there was a roar. Quick, save us. Activate the Supreme Array. That kid was here. For great sages returned with blood. The people of Ethereal Peak were terrified. What was going on? Were you ambushed? The 4 great sages shook their heads. It was Lin Xian. Lin Xian was here. He was a demon. They had to stop him. Lin Xian. The people of Ethereal Peak frowned. A young man could make the great sages so terrified. Why were only the 4 of them back? Where were the others? What kind of experts did Lin Xian invite to help? The 4 experts wanted to say something, but in the next moment, a figure flew over from afar. Lin Xian stood in the sky. Looking at the ethereal peak in front, he said coldly, "Do you think you can survive by escaping here?" With that said, the heaven-swallowing jar surged with energy again. Lin Xian took out a dragon-shaped sword shadow and slashed out. Retreat! The 4 injured great sages roared in fear. The others of Ethereal Peak were stunned. What was a young man afraid of? This was their territory. Don't be afraid. Let me do it. A few elders stood out. One of them held a long spear and shattered the world. The other person took out a shield to block the attack. The other 2 shrouded their holy regions and activated the array. It was too easy to kill a young man with such a lineup, but these people were destined to be in despair. Under the sword, the array was shattered, the mountain collapsed, and the great sages who attacked disappeared. Of the 4 who were severely injured, 2 were swept into the sword light and turned into blood mist. Endless mountains collapsed, and the entire ethereal peak was shocked. This sword strike almost split Misty Peak in half. Lin Xian was shocked. Ethereal Peak was indeed above the grotto heaven. Their foundation was indeed extraordinary, but he wasn't afraid. His body swayed, and he entered Ethereal Peak. At this moment, the peak master of Ethereal Peak came out as well. He was a middle-aged man wearing a Taoist robe, and his face was grim. He walked over with countless experts and confronted Lin Xian. "Young man, this is not a place where you can be so presumptuous." Lin Xian's answer was very simple. It was another sword strike. Piles of Misty Peak warriors had perished, and even the sages had perished. The Misty Peak was torn apart. Previously, Lin Xian had devoured 5 heavenly caves with the heaven-devouring jar, allowing him to execute 5 slashes. At this moment he had already slashed 3 times, and only 2 more were left. The people of Misty Peak were shocked. What kind of attack was this? The Misty Peak's Peak Lord was even more furious. Young man, don't go overboard. Although you are powerful, how many times can you use such an attack? Even some of the Supreme Elders had awakened. Their killing intent soared, and there was even an extremely terrifying killing intent gathering in the dark. Obviously, the power of the mortal world had also been used. An inescapable net. This lineup was 10 times stronger than the previous heavenly caves. Lin Xian stood in the void, without flinching. He took out a token from his storage ring and said, "You should recognize this token." The people of Misty Peak looked over, puzzled. How could a token scare them? However, the Misty Peak's Peak Lord exclaimed, "Saint Origin Token, you have a Saint Origin Token. You are from the Sacred Abyss Tower." As the Peak Lord, he had traveled around when he was young, so he had naturally been to the Sacred Abyss ancient city. He even knew about the legend of the Sacred Abyss Tower. At that time, he stood outside and admired it for a long time. After he returned, he was very powerful, but he never went to the Sacred Abyss ancient city again. However, he was very clear about the power and terror of the Sacred Abyss Tower. Now that the other party had a Saint Origin token, it meant that he was from the Sacred Abyss Tower. It's good that you recognize it. Do you think that Misty Peak is qualified to fight against me? How dare you? Who do you think you are? Are you trying to scare us? The people around him shouted angrily. Shut up! The Misty Peak's Peak Lord roared. What do you know? The surrounding people were all terrified. Could it be that this command medallion really possessed some sort of magical power that could make their peak leader so terrified? Young man, I will let bygones be bygones. The 6 grotto heavens were destroyed, and I acknowledge your position in Wushuang City. How about we write off the grudges between us? The people around him were dumbfounded. It was too unbelievable. Their Peak Lord actually backed down. It's not enough. Lin Xian shook his head. The Misty Peak's Peak Lord's pupils shrank. He gritted his teeth and asked, "Then what do you want?" "Hand over the assassins of the human world. As for the rest of Misty Peak, they will go down the mountain and become independent cultivators. They will never be enemies with Wushuang City." Impossible! The elders around him roared crazily. They would never agree to either of the 2 conditions. The human world and Misty Peak were too closely related. There was no way to separate them. As for sealing the mountain gate, what a joke! Wouldn't Wushuang City become a supremacy in this place? How could they give up? The assassins of the human world took the initiative to attack. The terrifying killing. Swords covered the sky. There were dozens of them. They were all great sages. Ordinary assassins below the great sage level wouldn't be able to break through Lin Xian's defense. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He merged the power of the last 2 grotto heavens and slashed out a super strong sword, a sword that shocked the gods. Under the sword, the void was shattered. Dozens of great sages were turned into blood mist. Lin Xian stood in the sea of blood and asked coldly, "Do you want to continue?" Although the power given to him by the grotto heavens was gone, he was still fearless. His eyes shone with confidence. The elders broke down. The people of the star race were also in despair. The other party must be using an extreme weapon. Otherwise, why would it be so terrifying? "Stop, I'm willing to accept your previous conditions." The Misty Peak's Peak Lord sighed. It was as if he had aged a few thousand years. Lin Xian sneered. "It's too late to agree now. I'll add one more condition. Hand over the resources of Misty Peak." "You..." The Misty Peak's Peak Lord was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. However, he still acquiesced. He had no choice. although he doubted whether the other party could still unleash a super strong sword. If they continued fighting, there would be no benefits for Misty Peak. The other party had taken out the Sengyuan token. If anything happened to the other party here, the Divine General of the Sacred Abyss Tower would definitely come to investigate. By then, no matter how strong they were, they wouldn't be able to withstand the wrath of the Divine General. All the great sages of the mortal world had fallen under that sword. The remaining assassins of the mortal world were in despair. The Misty Peak's Peak Lord and the others had taken action personally. The people of the star race were in despair. Are you guys really going to take action? The members of the mortal world were basically from the star race. At this moment, the star race was wiped out. Young master, are you satisfied? Lin Xian looked around. When he could no longer feel the killing intent, he nodded. Then he walked over. Misty Peak seems to have the power of reincarnation. He was also emitting an extremely strong power of reincarnation. The Misty Peak's Peak Lord was stunned. Young master, please follow me. Chapter 4972. He had completely submitted to Lin Fan now. The person in front of him had completely surpassed him in terms of status and strength. As for the other party coming to them, they had only themselves to blame. After all, they had hunted down the other party back then. Now it was an eye for an eye. The fact that Ethereal Peak could survive was already a blessing in disguise. He naturally didn't dare to have any thoughts of revenge. As for the reincarnation power that the other party mentioned, he couldn't hide it. Lin Xian followed the other party all the way into Ethereal Peak, passing through countless arrays. He wasn't afraid that the other party would play any tricks. He had enough trump cards to deal with everything. The Ethereal Peak Master didn't seem to want to play any tricks. He came to the depths of the mountains and opened an ancient mansion. There was a sacred platform inside, emitting the radiance of the great Tao. And there was a bone on it. The bone exuded the power of reincarnation. Lin Xian was surprised. The Ethereal Peak Master said that this was the source of the reincarnation power of Ethereal Peak. Looking at the reincarnation bone in front of him, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. There was also a terrifying power of reincarnation in his eyes. The two types of reincarnation power intertwined between heaven and earth. The Ethereal Peak Master was shocked. To be honest, although they could use the power of reincarnation, they couldn't get close to the reincarnation bone at all. Not to mention that Lin Xian could unleash such a terrifying power of reincarnation. The Ethereal Peak Master was too shocked. At this moment, the reincarnation bone in front of him suddenly flew towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian was stunned. The power of reincarnation intertwined in his eyes, forming a gate of reincarnation and sucking the bone in. This wasn't his intention. The bone flew over of its own accord. Lin Xian naturally didn't hold back. If he absorbed the power of reincarnation on it, it might be able to evolve his heavenly secret divine eye. He now knew that after the heavenly secret divine eye evolved, it would become the legendary reincarnation eye. At a glance, it was the 6 paths of reincarnation. The Ethereal Peak Master was stunned. Why did he take away the supreme treasure of Ethereal Peak? What was she about to say? Lin Xian turned his head and looked over. The Misty Peak Lord felt his scalp turning numb. He could feel the gaze of Qin, Wentian growing deeper and deeper. He laughed. Treasures could only be obtained by experts. Moreover, young master, you also possess the power of reincarnation. This originally belonged to you. His heart was bleeding, but he still had to smile. Lin Xian lightly snorted and said indifferently, "Previously, in the true spirit world, the channel to the buried emperor, Star, should be under your control. Open it, I want to return to quintessential world." The Misty Peak Lord was shocked. Young master wanted to return. Naturally, he didn't dare to ask any more questions. I'll go and prepare now. Actually, what he needed to do was very simple. He just needed to bring Lin Xian and the others to a specific location and then activate the power of reincarnation. Previously, they had borrowed the power of the reincarnation bone to control this passageway. But now, the reincarnation bone was gone. Without a source of reincarnation energy in their hands, they might not be able to control this passage in the future. Lin Xian and the rest returned from the Misty Peak. At this moment, the Misty Peak's momentum was greatly reduced. Furthermore, they were no longer the overlords and had fallen from their divine altar. From now on, this region belonged to Peerless City. When the clans and sects in this region found out, they were in an uproar. They originally thought that the Misty Peak would completely crush Peerless City, but the situation was completely out of their expectations. Peerless City was actually so powerful that they had become the only overlord in this region. Even the Misty Peak had to bow down to them. Moreover, it was said that there were countless sages' blood flying from the Misty Peak. It was like hell. Hong Yi, Gao Jianfei, the two of you stay here and take care of things here. Yes, young, martial uncle. The two of them nodded and walked out. Lin Xian took out a token. This was the Divine Union token. Anyone who dared to disobey would be killed without mercy. A cold voice rang out. The people of the Misty Peak also lowered their heads, not daring to disobey. After resting for another 2 days, Lin Xian and the rest moved out. The Misty Peak's peak master personally led the way. He brought them to a primitive forest and pointed at a huge mountain in front of them. This is the place. Use the power of reincarnation to open the door of reincarnation. All right. Lin Xian nodded. There was an extremely terrifying power of reincarnation intertwining in his eyes. The void in front of them shook and was torn apart. Then, a door of reincarnation appeared, emitting a mysterious aura. At the same time, there seemed to be some kind of mysterious power connecting heaven and earth, which surprised Lin Xian. This was too unbelievable. He had a shocking thought, but now was not the time to think about it. Let's go. With a wave of his hand, he led the Crimson Dragon and the rest into the door of reincarnation. After another round of space shuttling, they were already in the quintessential world when they reappeared. The people of the Divine Union were extremely curious, especially by Susu and the rest who kept looking around. Lin Xian, is this the quintessential world? This is the origin star. It is indeed extraordinary. I can feel the aura here. It is very mysterious. Lin Xian nodded. Then he was surprised. He could feel that the power of this world had increased a lot since he had left. In other words, this world was recovering at an extremely fast speed. In that case, the cultivation of the people in this world should have undergone earth-shaking changes. He did not know. What was the connection between these two worlds? Let's go. Lin Xian waved his hand. Everyone boarded the spirit boat. They flew quickly. Lin Xian, the Crimson Dragon, and the rest heard some things about the divine spirit world. It turned out that the remote antiquity families also existed in this world. Furthermore, one Long Chao had come from here. They were extremely surprised. They even found that those sacred grounds and peerless great sects also existed here. The two worlds were exactly the same. Bai Susu exclaimed. The others also exclaimed. Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. He seemed to have grasped a key point, but he still felt that it was a little vague. Were the family inheritances the same in the two worlds? One was life, and the other was death. Could it be the same as Tai Chi? He cultivated the Tai Chi art, and naturally knew that yin and yang were fused together and could not be separated independently. The buried Emperor Star and the origin star were equivalent to yin and yang. Interesting. It was getting more and more mysterious. He probably could not figure it out with his current strength. If he wanted to know, he would probably have to become an emperor. The group first went to the outstanding warrior residence and saw Qing Wu, North Demon's sister. At this moment, Qing Wu's strength had increased by leaps and bounds. However, when she saw Lin Xian and the rest, she was shocked. Lin Xian said, "I'm here to pick you up on behalf of your brother. Come with me." Qing Wu was so excited that she was about to cry. She had been separated from North Demon for many years. She nodded and left with Lin Xian. "Let's go to the Divine Palace." The group once again headed to the Divine Palace. At the Divine Palace, Peacock, Xing Tian, and the rest were extremely excited when they saw Lin Xian return. They greeted the Divine Palace Master. Lin Xian laughed. "Let's celebrate later. I want to see Old Xia first." He headed to the core region of the Divine Palace and went to the ancient cave. Lin Xian opened it. There was an old man sealed in the divine crystal. His aura was extremely weak. Lin Xian took a deep breath after seeing it. He said, "Senior, I'm here." Chapter 4973. Inside the divine crystal, Xia Jiu opened his eyes and smiled kindly. "You're back?" Lin Xian said, "I've kept you waiting." With that, he waved his hand and opened the sword world. It enveloped Xia Jiu as well. "Now that I've found the divine spring of life, it has a strong vitality. He once created the immortal divine medicine and the divine tree of life. He should be able to cure you." Xia Jiu's eyes lit up. "The divine spring of life? You actually obtained it as well. How could Spirit Realm be willing to give it to you?" Lin Xian was even more surprised. He didn't expect Xia Jiu to know such a secret. Wasn't this something only the divine tree of life and the previous masters of Spirit Realm knew? Xia Jiu recalled and said, "Back then, I also went to Spirit Realm to look for the immortal herb. I saw the divine spring of life. However, Spirit Realm was related to a great emperor back then. I wasn't a great emperor back then, so I couldn't make a move. So I left." "How did you get it?" "It shouldn't be easy. How could Spirit Realm be willing to give it to you?" Xia Jiu was also very confused. Lin Xian said that Spirit Realm was destroyed and no longer existed. Xia Jiu's pupils shrank. He looked up and asked, "What's going on?" Lin Xian said, "I didn't do it. It was the Thousand Dragon Court." It was a long story. To put it simply, the Dragon Prince's life was in danger. The Thousand Dragon Court went crazy and wanted to snatch the divine tree of life. There was actually such a thing. Xia Jiu exclaimed. It seemed that the battle for Great Emperor was getting more and more intense. Lin Xian said, "Old Xia, let's use the divine spring of life first." He felt that the other party was in a bad state. "So, I'm not suitable to stay in this world in my current state. Let me out first. Take out the divine spring of life." Lin Xian also came back to his senses. He was too excited just now and didn't see that the divine crystal on Xia Jiu's body was about to disappear. Obviously, the sword world was absorbing power. He said, "I was too reckless." He quickly brought Xia Jiu out of the sword world. At the same time, he took out 2 springs from the sword world. It was placed in Xia Jiu's cave. Xia Jiu sat on the mouth of the spring as the divine spring of life enveloped him. His withered body was gradually recovering. "That's great." Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Sure enough, it worked. Next, Lin Xian gave Xia Jiu a detailed account of his experiences on the buried Emperor's star. Xia Jiu felt gratified after hearing this. The student has surpassed the teacher. You will definitely walk further on the path of the great Emperor than me. By the way, Elder Xia, what is going on in this world? Why did it wither? Lin Xian asked about the sword world. Elder Xia sighed. This world had withered away during the Great War back then. However, it did not shatter. It was just that its power had dried up. As long as there was a chance, he would be reborn. Now that he is in your hands, you must take good care of him. Perhaps you will be able to achieve that goal one day when you control this world. Xia Zhouyo's explanation was very vague, but Lin Xian knew that this world was very important. Furthermore, he had also experienced the wonders of this world. The growth rate of the spirit herbs inside was countless times faster than the growth rate outside. It was simply a paradise. He really did not know what kind of great war had caused this world to wither away. Peak great sage? Or was it a battle between great emperors above the great sage? Lin Xian then left. He had been maintaining the connection between the sacred spring of life and the sacred spring of life. This would allow Xia Zhouyo to continue recovering. This time, he went out to meet with the people from the Divine Hall. The group was very happy. Bai Susu and the others from the Divine Union were already familiar with Peacock and the others. Therefore, they chatted happily with each other. Everyone was lively for more than 10 days before gradually calming down. On this day, Xia Zhouyo's pupils shrank. Lin Xian's expression changed. He could sense that the little bit of vitality that Xia Zhouyo had just recovered seemed to be rapidly declining. What was going on? Lin Xian's expression changed as he instantly arrived at the ancient cave. What had happened? Xia Zhouyo's face was a little pale. His eyes were staring ahead, as though he was confronting something. Lin Xian was puzzled. He couldn't sense anything. A moment later, he activated his heavenly secret god, and his golden gaze swept over. The void was torn apart, and a wind blew past. Who was it? Lin Xian waved his hand and grabbed nothing. However, at that moment, he discovered that there were a few footprints on the ground. It was pitch black. Someone had come here and was confronting Xia Zhouyo. Who was it? Lin Xian took the lead to look at Xia Zhouyo. He had set up countless arrays in the surroundings. However, Xia Zhouyo said that it was useless. He had not expected it to be them. They were indeed still alive. Lin Xian was even more puzzled. Who exactly was it? One had to know that although Xia Zhouyo's vitality was not much now, he had been invincible when he was at his peak. Even on the buried Emperor Star, there were probably not many who could contend with him. One could only imagine how terrifying the existence that had shocked him was. They were from the underworld. The underworld? Lin Xian was stunned. Wasn't that an assassin organization? There were terrifying assassins. Lin Xian's face turned gloomy. Xia Zhouyo said that assassins were one of the members of the underworld, but not all of them. For example, the Heavenly Court also had assassin organizations. However, that was only a part of it. Lin Xian was astonished. He asked, could it be that the underworld is in existence like the Heavenly Court? Xia Zhouyo nodded. That was more or less the case. When he was at his peak, he had contended against them, and neither could do anything to the other. Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. Although he had never seen the Heavenly Court, he had heard of it. The Heavenly Court had the heaven-devouring jar, countless ancient cultivation techniques, and the 12 Tao palaces. It was truly an organization with countless experts and geniuses. He had not expected the underworld to be so terrifying. Xia Zhouyo continued to say shocking things. The Heavenly Court had great emperors, and so did the underworld. The one who had created the Heavenly Court was called the Heavenly Emperor. The one who had created the underworld was called the Underworld Emperor. The Underworld Emperor's ultimate weapon was the Book of Life and Death. It could control the life and death of tens of thousands of worlds. Although the Underworld Emperor had died, the Book of Life and Death had been passed down. Xia Zhouyo's every word shocked Lin Xian even more. The Book of Life and Death could reap one's soul and take one's life? Were these people here to take Xia Zhouyo's life? Xia Zhouyo sighed. The heavenly Tao was heartless. No one could escape from the cycle of life and death. However, we cultivate to prolong our lives as much as possible. Therefore, there was the immortal divine medicine and the second life. Now that I have been nourished by the divine spring of life, my vitality has begun to recover. My reincarnation from the dead has naturally destroyed the will of the heavenly Tao. This has attracted the attention of the underworld. That was why they had sent an emissary here. Was there no other way? Lin Xian frowned. It had not been easy for him to obtain the divine spring of life. Xia Jiu said that there was still a way. They were called the underworld, but they were only some powerful saints. They were neither gods nor immortals. In the end, they were eliminating potential enemies for the underworld. Chapter 4974. Lin Xian understood and heaved a sigh of relief. What Xia Jiu had said about the Book of Life and Death and the Underworld Emperor had frightened him. That was why he had imagined them to be existences that surpassed everything. Now, it seemed like these were just titles. They were people just like the Heavenly Court and the Purple Mansion. It was just that their cultivation techniques and abilities were a little strange. Since they were people, they could be dealt with and killed. I want to see if the Book of Life and Death can bring them back to life when their bodies and souls are destroyed. Xia Jiu's eyes shone with a piercing light. How could he give up now that there was hope? He said, "Give me 2 more springs, and I'll recover faster. When I'm stronger, I'll be able to enter your world. They won't be able to enter then." Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. However, his expression turned grave in the next moment. Xia Jiu had said, "Before that, you have to be able to withstand 3 attacks." 3 attacks? Lin Xian's eyes flickered as he took a deep breath. "Don't worry. Leave it to me. I won't let anyone hurt you." He sat down in a lotus position outside the cave. He didn't tell the Sacred Hall or the Divine Union. The Hell's emissary came and went without a trace. It was very mysterious and strange. The night turned dark, a chilly wind blew, and Su Cheng opened his eyes abruptly. He felt his hair stand on end. Golden flames danced in his eyes as he looked ahead. The whole world changed in his eyes. He could see more clearly. He found that there was indeed a blurry figure walking over. This person was wearing a black robe and emanating a deathly aura. He was swinging a chain in his hand. However, he couldn't hear him at all. Perhaps only Xia Jiu could hear this voice. The Hell's emissary flew towards Xia Jiu. He didn't pay attention to Lin Xian at all, as though he didn't exist. Lin Xian waved his hand, and a sword aura cut through the sky, blocking the other party's path. The Hell's emissary stopped in front. When he saw the golden flames in Lin Xian's eyes, he said in a low voice, "Young man, can you see me?" "Of course. Not only can I see you, but I'll also stop you." "Just you?" "Ha ha! Hell reaps your soul, and a Nidya Hellguard reaps your life. You can't stop that. If you dare to interfere with the affairs of the underworld, I'll take your soul away and send it to hell for all eternity." His voice contained an extremely terrifying power. That was the aura of death sweeping towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian sneered. The law of death also condensed on his body. When the two of them collided, it was like 2 mountains clashing. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Elder Xia was right. You guys are just humans who have cultivated special techniques and abilities. There's nothing to be surprised about. You've also cultivated the law of death. The underworld emissary was shocked, but soon he sneered. You're too naive. Since we're both death laws, I'll let you know the difference between us. Since you dare to stand in the way of hell's business, then I'll take your soul away. The chain in his hand flew forward. Lin Xian could feel a huge shackling force enveloping him. It was a force that suppressed his soul. Soul chains? In his eyes, golden radiance ignited heaven and earth, burning fiercely, blocking those chains. The entire chain shook violently. The underworld emissary's expression changed again. What a strong soul aura. Those eyes. He stared at Lin Xian's eyes and frowned. Young man, are you really not going to move aside? Lin Xian didn't say anything this time. Instead, he took the initiative to attack. Take a punch from me too. The golden fist punched out, shattering heaven and earth. The underworld emissary sneered. It's useless. You can't hurt me. But as soon as he finished speaking, his hair stood on end, and he retreated in horror. Damn it, the power of reincarnation. Who are you? Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back and said loudly, You don't need to know who I am. But today, you can forget about stepping into this cave. The Hell's emissary was enraged as well. He let out a low roar that sounded like the roar of a demon god. Behind him, endless death aura appeared and condensed into an illusion. It was the deep and serene hell. Countless vengeful spirits of hell rushed out from the 9 serenities hell. The terrifying aura made one's scalp tingle. The power of the 9 serenities hell came again with the 2 soul chains. Lin Xian's body surged with a monstrous sword light. Slash. His sword was capable of destroying everything. With a slash of the sword, countless vengeful spirits were all split apart. The 2 soul chains were also sent flying, and cracks appeared on them. The underworld emissary was shocked. Damn it, this kid is so evil. After Lin Xian slashed out, the 9 yang divine body bloomed beside him, surrounded by the illusion of 9 suns. The power of the purest yang swept in all directions. As soon as this power came out, the 9 serenities hell on the opposite side instantly shook. Black smoke rose from it, and countless vengeful spirits screamed miserably. Damn it, the purest yang physique. The underworld emissary's expression changed. This physique was specially used to restrain them. Young man, good, very good. You have completely offended us. Just wait for the anger of the underworld. This person didn't attack again. His body slowly disappeared, and then disappeared. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He didn't care about this threat. Then he sat down cross-legged again, took out a pill, and swallowed it to recover. 3 days later, he opened his eyes. He felt the second figure coming. That's right, the second underworld emissary had arrived. This person's appearance was similar to the previous one, but his weapon was different. Previously, the other party used the soul chains. This time, the other party was holding a death scythe. The pitch-black death scythe emitted a demonic aura that frightened people from their souls. He turned into smoke and rushed over, arriving in front of Lin Xian in an instant. The death scythe slashed down. Boom! A pitch-black crack was torn in the void, spreading in all directions and enveloping Lin Xian. An extremely terrifying death aura emerged from the other party's body. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He wasn't afraid. He took out the Great Destruction and attacked the death scythe. With a clang, flames danced in the air. However, at this moment, his pupils shrank. He found that there were 4 killing swords behind him, directly attacking him. Assassins and top assassins at that. Lin Xian's face darkened. These were the assassins of hell, not weaker than those of the mortal world. Puff! The 4 killing swords suddenly attacked, hitting Lin Xian's back, sending Lin Xian flying. Lin Xian's blood boiled. His face turned pale, and his body fell forward. At this moment, the underworld emissary sneered. A black chain appeared in his hand, binding Lin Xian's body, fixing him in midair. Ignorant ant, how dare you fight against hell? I'll make you regret it for the rest of your life. The death scythe was raised high and fell down. Puff! Blood splattered, cutting the body in front of him in half. It couldn't withstand a single blow. Looking at the broken body, the underworld emissary sneered and withdrew the death scythe. However, in the next moment his body trembled and he lowered his head in disbelief. A black spear pierced through his body, shattering all of his internal organs. Chapter 4975. How is this possible? The Hellbringer was shocked. Wasn't the kid in front of him cut in half? How could he still attack him? He abruptly turned around and discovered that Lin Xian was completely unharmed. Damn it. How could this be? Could it be a clone? No, it's an illusion. I was hit by an illusion just now. When the Hellbringer saw that pair of cold eyes, he instantly understood. Cold sweat flowed down his forehead. Damn it, this young man's eye technique is so powerful that I fell for it. What made him even more terrified was that he couldn't move at all. His body was pierced by the spear of destruction, and an invincible sword, intent, surged into his body. It seemed to be able to destroy all the power in his body. You want to suppress me with this kind of strength? What a joke. Lin Xian snorted coldly. The Hellbringer roared crazily. Kid, don't be too proud. No matter how strong a person is, he can't compete with hell. Is that so? I don't know if I can compete with the entire hell, but killing you is as easy as flipping my hand. A terrifying, killing intent surged from Lin Xian's body. The Hellbringer's expression changed drastically. You dare to kill me? If you kill me, you'll become the enemy of hell. However, it was useless. No matter how he threatened, he couldn't change Lin Xian's mind. Just as Lin Xian was about to make his move, the sound of a gong rang out from afar. Following that, the entire void shattered. The Hellbringer was stunned. His body was torn to pieces by the sound, turning into black mist and quickly reforming in the distance. Death Taker! Great, you're here. The Death Sickle was very excited. Lin Xian frowned. Is someone coming again? The first two took his soul, and the last one took his life. His face darkened. A figure walked out from the front. It was an old man. His face was pale, without a trace of blood. He carried a large black flag on his back and held a gong in his hand. The sound just now came from it. After the old man arrived, he looked at the Hellbringer and frowned. What happened? Did he fail again? This kid is too strange. His soul eye technique is very powerful, and he even knows a terrifying sword intent. Humph, trash. The old man shouted coldly. The Hell's emissary lowered his head and begged for forgiveness. Forget it, I'll do it myself. The old man walked forward, but he didn't enter the cave. He directly struck the gong. Clang. A deep voice rang out, making people feel as if their souls were about to leave their sheaths. Lin Xian also felt his soul tremble. His eyes erupted with radiance as he forcefully suppressed it. At the same time, he roared angrily. Countless dragon-shaped sword chi shot out and slashed forward. Useless brat, with just your sword, you can't use my voice. The old man from hell was very confident. But as soon as he finished speaking, he was slapped in the face. Under the sword chi, his voice quickly became softer and softer before disappearing completely. What's going on? The old man's face darkened. His opponent's sword chi was indeed very strange. No wonder you failed the previous 2 times. You do have some strength. Looks like I have to use some tricks. The black flag on his back shone with a demonic radiance. Then, it transformed into 2 large black hands that reached out to grab him. Lin Xian's eyes were also filled with killing intent. Previously, Xia Jiu had said that he would block 3 attacks, which meant that the underworld would send 3 envoys. Now, it was already the 3rd one. As long as he could block this person's attack, there wouldn't be any danger in the underworld for a short period of time. Lin Xian brandished Apocalypse and slashed forward with the dragon-shaped sword chi, colliding with the large black hands. The large flag suddenly transformed into a black snake and coiled around. Seal. The old man roared angrily. The large black snake transformed into countless seals that covered the sky and earth, sealing everything. Then The old man sneered and struck the gong in his hand again. Another clanging sound rang out. In his opinion, he had already sealed the other party. His large black flag was also an incredible weapon. It would definitely be difficult for the other party to escape. However, the sound still didn't reach him. Countless black vortexes appeared in the surroundings, directly swallowing these voices. Lin Xian's voice still sounded. "You want to seal me with a mere seal? You're too naive." Boom. The apocalypse spear shone brightly as if the black dragon had come alive and tore apart the seals in the sky. The sword chi on it continued to erupt and soared into the sky. Lin Xian swept out like a peerless sword god. Boom. He charged towards the large black flag. The old man's expression changed. He formed a seal with one hand and waved it behind him. The black flag flew out and danced in the sky, resisting the apocalypse spear. At the same time, the gong in his hand changed direction and charged towards Lin Xian. The soul shattered. The sound changed. Previously, it was the sound of summoning the soul. Now, it was the sound of destroying the soul. Lin Xian felt that his 7 orifices were bleeding and his soul was about to shatter. He released the power of reincarnation and turned it into a reincarnation millstone that crushed out. At the same time, he formed a seal with his palms. Seal of the fearless lion. The berserk lion roared angrily between heaven and earth. Lin Xian opened and closed, fighting a great battle with it. So strong, the scythe-wielding emissary of the underworld was dumbfounded. It seemed that the other party could kill him effortlessly. The old man's expression was even colder. He was actually such a difficult opponent. Was he a top genius? Thinking of that, he was furious. No one has ever dared to stop us, not even the top geniuses. Hell descended. The old man roared angrily. Countless black runes appeared on his body and began to burn. The surroundings instantly darkened, and the 9th underworld descended once again. The emissary of the underworld had used this method before, but its power was 10 times stronger than before. It seemed to have enveloped the entire world. The people of the Temple of the Gods felt that the sky had darkened. A chilly wind blew past, causing their bodies to tremble. The old man of hell seemed to have turned into the god of hell as he looked at Lin Xian. Suppress. 18 levels of hell. Lin Xian felt the ground beneath his feet crack open. It was as if there was a force pulling him underground. He stomped his feet, and the terrifying power of his divine body transformed into a divine dragon that bombarded the crack. At the same time, he soared into the sky. So, what if the underworld descended? I'll split it with my sword. The sword chi in Lin Xian's hand became more and more terrifying. It let out a terrifying dragon roar. Then he held the sword with both hands and slashed down. Boom! The 9 underworld's underworld began to tremble again, and cracks began to appear on its surface. Then it split in half from the middle. How could this be? The old man's pupils constricted. He fell to the ground on his back and vomited blood. What kind of sword technique was this? It could split the 9th underworld. It was unbelievable. Lin Xian slashed again, and the old man's body was split in half. He realized that this force was preventing his body from healing. Lin Xian walked over in a domineering manner like a demonic god. All sorts of ultimate skills were unleashed continuously. Aren't you from the underworld? Don't you have the Book of Life and Death? Let's see if you can be resurrected after death. The seal of the fearless lion came down crazily and tore the old man into pieces. Chapter 4976. Dead. The hell's emissary with the scythe was terrified. You're finished. How dare you kill someone from the underworld? You're dead meat. He roared in horror and gradually dimmed, as if he was about to disappear. Lin Xian's eyes were shining with a terrifying radiance. After obtaining the reincarnation bone, his reincarnation power was even more terrifying. His eyes turned into two blades of reincarnation power. They pierced through the Hell's emissary's body. 6 paths of reincarnation. With a scream, the Hell's emissary disappeared. The two of them were dead. Blood mist danced and turned into 2 blood-red runes, floating towards Lin Xian quickly. This scene was very sudden. Lin Xian was startled. He quickly retreated and slapped forward at the same time. The 2 runes were sent flying. Then, the 2 runes disappeared between heaven and earth, surrounded by black gas again. The ground cracked open, and a black eye suddenly opened. However, the eye seemed to have the light of a demon god. Piercing through heaven and earth, it shrouded Lin Xian. Lin Xian was facing a great enemy. He roared and activated the heavenly secret god eyes to the extreme to resist. At the same time, he was shocked. What kind of eye was that? It was too terrifying. In the mansion, Xia Jia was also alarmed and suddenly came out. When he saw the black eye, his face changed. Hell's evil eye. He quickly retreated and slapped forward. At the same time, the Hell's evil eye also emitted a terrifying gaze. It charged towards Lin Xian. Xia Juyo's palm covered the sky and earth. At this moment, he had recovered a little. The power was really terrifying. In an instant, the Hell's evil eye's gaze was shattered. At the same time, the Hell's evil eye was smashed into pieces and turned into black smoke. Did it disappear? The Hell's evil eye heaved a sigh of relief. Lin Xian, who was behind it, roared angrily. Damn it, he felt that something was wrong. His back was very painful, as if he had been stabbed by something. Xia Jiu hurriedly tore off his armor and gasped in shock. A black vertical eye appeared on Lin Xian's back, like a demonic rune. Why would the infernal evil eye appear on Lin Xian? Could it be that he was being targeted? Xia Jiu's brows were tightly knitted together. Lin Xian could naturally sense it as well. His face darkened when he heard that, and he shouted coldly. The great dragon sword spirit in his body spun rapidly, and he attacked the infernal evil eye on his back, trying to cut it into pieces. The infernal evil eye released a terrifying black light to resist the attack. For a moment, it actually blocked the great dragon sword spirit. Lin Xian was even more shocked. What was this? It was so strange. Xia Juyo said that the infernal evil eye was very strange and had existed since the primordial era. Furthermore, it was said that it had existed since the founding of the underworld, so it was very strange. What should he do? Lin Xian furrowed his brows. He hadn't expected hell to be so strange. Xia Jiu took a deep breath. It seemed like he had to make a trip there. Initially, he thought that he could make a trip there alone. I didn't expect to have to bring you along this time. Lin Xian was shocked. Where were they going? Xia Jiu said, to the underworld. The underworld? Lin Xian was even more shocked. Xia Jiu nodded. Originally, I wanted to go there to retrieve something, but now you've been targeted by the infernal evil eye. It seems that you have to make a trip there personally, because that's the only way to deal with the eye on your back. Otherwise, once it acts up, it's very likely to take your life. It's so terrifying. Lin Xian was shocked. Xia Jiu said it was very terrifying. 100,000 years ago, there were 2 people who fought for the throne. Both of them had hopes of becoming a great emperor. However, one of them was targeted by someone from the underworld, and he was struck by the infernal evil eye. Later on, he died mysteriously. Therefore, you have to pay attention to it now. Lin Xian was silent. After a while, he said, I understand. After that, Lin Xian and Xia Jiu began to recover and prepare to head to the underworld. Lin Xian also told Bai Susu and the others to stay here for the time being. He had something to do. The Crimson Dragon asked, Kid, do you need us to go with you? Lin Xian thought for a while and said, No, I can handle it myself. This time, he didn't know what kind of danger he would encounter in the underworld. Therefore, he still hoped that fewer people would go. Xia Zhuyo's vitality recovered a lot. He formed a seal with his palms and began to construct a huge spatial array in the void. Lin Xian could feel an extremely terrifying spatial power from it. Needless to say, the teleportation distance this time should be very far. He asked Senior, "Where is the underworld?" Xia Zhuyo said that in the universe there was a dark galaxy, and there were endless worlds in it. The underworld was there, and the entire dark galaxy was controlled by the underworld. Lin Xian was shocked. A galaxy that was really an endless world. The foundation of the underworld was really terrifying. But soon he thought of another possibility. The heavenly court was not weaker than the underworld. In other words, there must be another galaxy in the universe that belonged to the heavenly court. He originally thought that the resources he had obtained from a few worlds were already a lot, but now it seemed that he was still lacking a lot. However, according to Xia Zhuyo, his world seemed to be more important than all the time in a galaxy. This made Lin Xian even more determined to fully revive the Sword World. After the spatial array was set up, Lin Xian and Xia Zhuyo walked up and teleported. In an instant, endless spatial cracks appeared in the sky above the true spirit world. Countless people looked up. What was happening? Some people were shocked. Was someone going to teleport so far? Who was it? In that direction? They investigated, but all the phenomena had disappeared. Lin Xian and Xia Zhuyo had already left the true spirit world. The two of them shuttled through the spatial channel. Every time, the surrounding stars would change, but it was about the same every time. The cold void of the universe was dominated by darkness. The light emitted by the surrounding stars was not enough to illuminate everything. Fortunately, Xia Zhuyo was too strong, so after a few shuttles, they had already left the true spirit world. However, at this moment, the sky shook and the earth shook. The spatial channel was about to shatter. Not good. Xia Zhuyo's face changed. Lin Xian said, "Is someone targeting me?" Xia Zhuyo shook his head. "No, the possibility is very small. I think we must have encountered some special situation. Let's go." They tore through the void and fled quickly. The original spatial channel kept shattering. The two of them appeared in the universe and looked around. Xia Zhuyo's eyes flickered. They had not arrived yet. Then he turned his head and looked into the distance. It turned out that they were the ones who destroyed the spatial channel. Lin Xian also looked into the distance. He activated the heavenly secret god, I, and found that there was a battle in the distance. Moreover, it was very terrifying. The two sides of the battle were huge monsters. The monster's body was even bigger than a world. Chapter 4977. On the other side, there were 5 war chariots. They were completely black and carried an extremely terrifying aura of death. The war chariots were being chased. Xia Zhuyo, who was beside him, said that the beast was called the Earth Devil and liked to eat corpses. Needless to say, the 5 war chariots must have been obtained by the underworld. They carried a lot of corpses, which was why the Earth Devil attacked them. Should we charge over or take a detour? Or wait? Lin Xian asked. Xia Zhuyo thought for a moment. No, I changed my mind. I thought of a better idea. Then Xia Zhuyo said this idea. It turned out that he was preparing to hide himself, and then let Lin Xian change his identity and aura to get close to the 5 war chariots. Then he would use the name of joining the underworld and entering the underworld. Every once in a while, the underworld would recruit a batch of geniuses for assessment. If they met the requirements, they would stay for training and become a member of the underworld. Lin Xian would not arouse suspicion if he used this name. Then Lin Xian asked, after entering, how could he get rid of the evil eye of hell on his back? He could find something related to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Lin Xian was puzzled. Then he understood that it was the existence that suppressed the 18 levels of hell. Legend had it that if he did not enter hell, who would? Could it be that he still had to go to the 18 levels of hell? Lin Xian frowned. Xia Juyo said that it was not certain. You might not find Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva personally. You might find his statue or something he used. As for other methods, he was not sure for the time being. However, he could enter the underworld first and investigate. Lin Xian nodded, indicating that he understood. Next, he brought Xia Juyo into the sword world and let him continue to recover in the divine spring of life. As for him, he changed his appearance and aura and flew forward. He chose a very good route. He quickly approached one of the war chariots. Everyone save me. He looked very anxious. The people on the war chariot also frowned. Who are you? Why are you here? Lin Xian said, I was originally teleporting, but I did not expect the space tunnel to shatter. I had no choice but to fall. In the void. Everyone, please give me a hand. The demonic beasts behind us are too terrifying. Why should I help you? The people from the underworld snorted coldly and remained unmoved. They were all cold existences and would not casually help others. Lin Xian said, I know you're from the underworld because this time I wanted to join the underworld and become their killer. I'm here for the assessment. Oh, you're here for the assessment. This time, one of the old men raised his eyebrows and looked carefully at Lin Xian. He was a saint king. Lin Xian said, That's right, senior. Please let me go up. All right, you come up. There was only one person, so they weren't afraid that it might be a trap, so they opened the chariot and let the person get on. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. His heart was filled with joy. Great, I've finally made it up. What's your name? Where did it come from? The old man began to ask. Lin Xian had already thought about it. He named a star and a family, then said, My name is Lin. Okay, you can go and rest first. Someone will bring you to the assessment later. Lin Xian was brought into the chariot. The chariot was very big, and there was a special room for resting. After entering, Lin Xian found that there were many people staying here. These people's auras weren't as cold, so it was obvious that they were also here to participate in the assessment. When they found out that Lin Xian was also here for the assessment, there was a trace of hostility in their eyes, and even a trace of killing intent. After all, every participant was a competitor. Finally, the 5 chariots escaped the pursuit of the Earth Devil and entered the dark star system. This was the territory of the underworld. After entering, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Then someone snorted. The Earth Devil was too despicable. When they returned, they would report to the underworld and let the experts of the underworld kill it. Lin Xian was silent at the side. He rarely spoke, but he heard a lot of news and had a better understanding of the underworld. There were countless experts in the underworld. The underworld was created by the underworld emperor. So the person with the highest position was the underworld emperor. Of course, this position was currently empty because no one had become the underworld emperor. Under the underworld emperor, there were many terrifying existences, and they were divided into different factions. For example, Yellow Springs, Limbo, Meng, Puh, the 18 levels of hell, and the 10 Yama Kings. These were all peak experts. They had huge forces behind them, and they represented different factions. Thus, the entire underworld was formed. After hearing this, Lin Xian was shocked. He secretly compared it with the Heavenly Court, and found out that the Heavenly Court had 12 Tao palaces, Southern Heaven Gate, and heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. Other than these, there were definitely other factions. There was also the Purple Palace. It was also incomparably mysterious and terrifying. Lin Xian asked Xia Juyo which faction to choose after entering. Xia Juyo said that he could choose the 18 levels of hell or the 10 Yama Kings. That's right. the underworld, and the power of reincarnation are somewhat related. You can also borrow this power to cultivate your reincarnation power. If you succeed when you return to the buried Emperor's Star, you can directly ascend the sacred Abyss Tower and participate in the coronation. After hearing this, Lin Xian was stunned. He then took a deep breath and clenched his fists. He didn't expect that he would have such a good opportunity on this trip to the underworld. If he really succeeded, he would be able to catch up to the Dragon Prince and Kunpingzi in the shortest time possible. At that time, he would be able to compete with them. Of course, the most important thing now was to remove the infernal evil eye on his back. Lin Xian decided to go to the 18 levels of hell. After entering, an old man asked Lin Xian and the others where to go. Lin Xian said that after the 18 levels of hell, the old man said, "Wait, someone will take you there very soon." The others also split into several groups according to their own wishes. Many of them walked towards Lin Xian. Clearly, they also wanted to join the 18 levels of hell. The auras and strength of these people were also incomparably powerful. They looked at Lin Xian with disdain. They could tell that Lin Xian's cultivation was inferior to theirs. Moreover, they didn't sense any terrifying killing intent from Lin Xian. Such a person was nothing more than an ant here. He was here to die. Lin Xian and the others had a total of more than 40 people. After waiting for a while, they were taken away. They were brought to another world. These people had to pass the test first before they could join. 2 days later, someone came. A black-robed woman wearing a mask stared at Lin Xian and the others with flickering eyes. She smiled. "I have an extra opportunity here. If anyone wants, they can stay." An extra opportunity. The others' eyes lit up when they heard this. One must know that although they were geniuses from all over the universe, they also knew how difficult it was to join the underworld. Among the 40 people, it would be pretty good if 1/10 of them could pass. In the end, only one person could pass. Now that there was an extra opportunity, how could they not be excited? What kind of opportunity is it? Someone asked. Even Lin Xian looked up in surprise. An extra opportunity? That was interesting. Chapter 4978. The woman in front smiled. "I need 3 cauldrons." As soon as she said that, the expressions of the surrounding people changed. Cauldron Top was not a good job. She would definitely absorb their strength and vitality. In the long run, they would die. Many people quickly shook their heads. Lin Xian also sighed. He would not consider it either. It seemed that he could only participate in the test. The woman in black sneered. "Looks like you guys are not willing. Then I will choose myself. You, and you. The 3 of you come out and follow me." The expressions of the 2 people who had been chosen changed. Even Lin Xian frowned because the other party had also pointed at him. He did not stand up. Instead, he said calmly, "I advise you to choose someone else. Otherwise, you will regret it." "Kid, what did you say? Are you threatening me?" The woman in black turned around and smiled. The people around her also emitted cold, killing intent. The surrounding people snorted. Among them, they did not think highly of Lin Xian because Lin Xian's cultivation aura was the weakest. But now, the person they did not think highly of dared to resist. Did he want to die quickly? The other 2 chosen people also shook their heads and sighed. Even people as strong as them did not dare to resist. Where did this kid get his courage from? "I will choose you today. What can you do to me? You are just a newcomer. It is not certain if you can stay here. And I am a member of the underworld. My words are orders. I can control your life. Do you understand? You control me." Lin Xian laughed coldly when he heard that. "I'm afraid you don't have that right." "Humph. I haven't been here for a long time. Who will teach such a bad-tempered newcomer a lesson?" The woman in black looked at the people around her. This time, she did not come alone. Instead, she brought a group of experts with her. Clearly, her status was not ordinary. "Let me teach him a lesson." A withered old man walked out. Both of his arms were black as ink, and carried an extremely terrifying aura. Dark ghost hands. Many people couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air when they saw this. They hadn't seen it before, but it was like thunder in their ears. This pair of hands was extremely difficult to master. Once it was mastered, a single claw could easily turn a Saint King into ashes. Now that the old man had mastered it, none of them were a match for him. Seeing that someone recognized him, the old man had a smug look on his face. He looked at Lin Xian and smiled. "Kid, are you regretting it now? If you regret it, then obediently kneel down and kowtow to admit your mistake, then you can still live." Sigh, brother, just accept your fate. Being a cultivation vessel did not necessarily mean death. It would only cause one's cultivation to stagnate. However, it was still better than being killed. The people around them also shook their heads. In their opinion, Lin Xian could not resist at all. Regret? Lin Xian smiled. "Why should I regret it? This kid was really stubborn." The surrounding examinees shook their heads and sighed. They knew that this kid's fate would be very miserable. The expression of the old man in front of him also darkened. Did he refuse a toast? "Then I'll make you regret it." He roared angrily and stretched out his black palm. The ghostly hand swept across heaven and earth. Around him, an extremely terrifying phenomenon of heaven and earth appeared. Countless Tao patterns intertwined around him, as if they could destroy everything. "Retreat quickly." The surrounding examinees felt that their souls were about to be torn apart and retreated in horror. At this moment, an empty space appeared around him. Only Lin Xian was still sitting there. Facing such a terrifying attack, Lin Xian was still not afraid. His eyes flashed with a cold light. He raised a finger and pointed forward. His movements were very light and slow. However, an extremely cold sword light flew out from his fingertip. Boom, boom. The two collided. The ghostly hand was originally unstoppable, but at this moment, it was pierced through. Not only that, this sword light pierced through the palm and charged towards the old man in black. The old man in black's palm was pierced. He screamed and quickly retreated. However, he did not expect that the power this time was far beyond his imagination. In an instant, the sword light was in front of him and directly pierced through his forehead. Poof! He fell on his back and snowflakes appeared on his forehead. Until his death, he did not believe that he would be killed in one move. The surrounding examinees gasped. What was going on? Was he dead? The ghostly hand was broken. Not only that, but the old man was also killed in an instant. How could this be? At this moment, the examinees felt cold all over. They looked at Lin Xian with horror. This was the person they did not think highly of the most, but his power was completely above theirs. The woman in black was also stunned. She did not dare to believe that the people she brought were all experts, especially the old man who attacked. The ghostly hand of darkness had been trained for thousands of years. Its power was so terrifying, but now it was killed. "How dare you kill him?" The woman in black roared. She was very angry and felt like she had been slapped in the face. Lin Xian snorted coldly. "Get lost or die." "You, how dare you?" "The person who dares to go against the Ghost Eye clan has not been born yet. You will definitely die. Attack. Kill him for me." A few more people walked out from behind the woman in black. One of them was a woman who was holding a black bell in her hand. There were a few ghostly heads painted on it. They looked extremely ferocious with green faces and fangs. The bell of the Ghost King. This bell was also able to take away one's vitality. When the four ghostly heads on it shook, they could directly devour the soul and blood of others. It would not take long for them to turn into a skeleton. After the woman took out the bell of the Ghost King, she began to activate it, an extremely terrifying sound, and the four ghostly heads charged towards Lin Xian. In an instant, they enveloped him. The four ghostly heads wanted to devour Lin Xian's body and soul. Humph! Lin Xian sneered. How dare you devour me? He secretly activated the sky-devouring jar, for black vortexes appeared around him and swallowed the four ghostly heads. The four ghostly heads seemed to have discovered the most terrifying thing and wanted to escape. However, the black vortexes directly enveloped them. In an instant, the strange phenomenon and ghostly heads in the world disappeared. Puffed! The woman in front of him vomited blood, and her face turned pale. How could it be? How could you break it? She was too shocked. Her sacred artifact was broken, and she suffered a backlash. She was injured. At this moment, the ground behind Lin Xian split open, and a white-bone sword pierced towards his back. The attacker was also a skeleton with ghostly fire dancing in its eyes. Kid, go to hell. With his strength, this sword could completely pierce through the opponent. When the opponent was seriously injured, there would only be one outcome, and that was death. In the face of the sure-kill sword from behind, Lin Xian did not even turn his head. It was as if he did not know at all. When the woman in black saw this, the corners of her mouth curled up into a smile. It was over. Although she had lost an expert on her side and seriously injured another expert, that kid was definitely going to die. Chapter 4979. Facing the white-bone sword, Lin Xian didn't move at all. He didn't even care. The sword collided with his body, emitting a deafening sound. Under the shocked gazes of countless people, the white-bone sword broke into countless pieces. That white skeleton was also directly shattered by the rebounding force, turning into powder. Countless people looked at this scene and gasped. They were all stunned. How strong was this person's physique? Lin Xian looked up at the black-clothed woman in front of him and smiled. Do you still want to continue? The black-clothed woman felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave. Her expression became extremely frightened. This person's strength was far beyond her imagination. The people she brought were no match for him at all. She gritted her teeth. Damn brat, just you wait. The Ghost Eye clan won't let you go. She snorted coldly and turned to leave. The surrounding people also sighed. The Ghost Eye clan was also an extremely terrifying clan in the underworld. Their pair of ghost eyes were extremely evil. Now that this young man had offended such a huge clan as soon as he arrived, his end would probably be very miserable. Lin Xian snorted coldly after hearing this. You really don't know what's good for you. If you had knelt on the ground and kowtowed to apologize, I could have considered sparing your life. However, you actually dared to threaten me. Do you really think that I won't dare to kill you? At the end of his words, a piercing killing intent appeared on Lin Xian's body. How dare you? The black-clothed woman roared crazily. However, in the next moment, she was terrified. Damn it, she saw a sword cheek coming towards her. Poof! In an instant, the black-clothed woman was split in half. She let out a miserable cry. The surrounding people were terrified. Did this young man kill her just like that? Was he really not afraid of offending the Ghost Eye clan? No, I won't accept this. The black-clothed woman roared crazily. Her eyes turned gray as she used the last of her bloodline power. Grandpa, save me. An extremely terrifying gray cloud appeared in the void. In the next moment, an angry roar was heard. Who dares to hurt my granddaughter? As soon as these words came out, the surrounding people's scalps went numb. Not good. Retreat quickly. These people quickly retreated. The newcomers had the aura of a great sage, and they also had a biting, cold-killing intent. If a fight really broke out, they would most likely be obliterated in an instant. All of them had fled. In the next instant, an old man appeared. He had a pair of ghostly eyes with green flames flickering in them. The surrounding sky and earth were collapsing. Fortunately, those people ran away quickly. Otherwise, they might have really died. "Grandpa, save me." The woman in black became very weak. "Don't worry, with me here, no one can hurt you." He displayed great confidence. With a wave of his hand, endless laws enveloped the black-robed woman. However, in the next moment, he was stunned because the black-clothed woman's soul suddenly split open, and the originally dim sword chi suddenly erupted. The woman in black was slashed into nothingness. At the same time, a faint voice rang out. "Can you stop the person I want to kill? Damn it, how dare you attack me in front of me?" The old man turned his head, and the killing intent in his eyes continued to erupt. Boundless ghost chi and death chi appeared on his body. His eyes were capable of burning everything. After he came, he said that his granddaughter was absolutely safe. However, the other party instantly slapped him in the face. His granddaughter was killed in front of him. That method was so strange that it shocked him. "Young man, you have completely angered me. I will let you know the taste of living a life worse than death." Those who had fled into the distance retreated again. The front had already become the sacred domain of a great sage. Anyone who entered would instantly be reduced to ashes. They were terrified. "Do you think that kid can still be alive? How is that possible? He will definitely die." No matter how powerful a sage king was, he couldn't compete with a great sage. Not necessarily. If he had a heaven-defying treasure in his hands, he might be able to compete with a great sage. Some people shook their heads. That was an ordinary great sage. They underestimated the Ghostly Eyes clan. Their eyes were extremely terrifying existences in this region. This kid was definitely dead. In front, Lin Xian also stood up and said indifferently, "Your granddaughter is courting death. She deserves to die. I advise you to leave quickly. Otherwise, you will also be buried in the 18 levels of hell with her. And you are just a sage king. How do you know the power of a great sage? Even if you are a genius, you are not my match at all. Today, I will let you see the ultimate technique of the Ghostly Eyes clan." That old man, the green flames in his eyes suddenly enlarged, and an extremely terrifying eye technique soul force swept forward. "I will refine your soul into a ghost. I will make you unable to reincarnate forever." Eye technique? Lin Xian smiled. "Coincidentally, I have also cultivated an eye technique. Why don't we have a contest?" Hearing this, the old man's face darkened. "I will send you on your way." The green light in his eyes completely exploded, turning into 2 balls of ghost fire that flew over. Once a person's soul was enveloped, it would not disappear but be refined into a ghost. There would be no reincarnation. A golden light appeared in Lin Xian's eyes, and the power of reincarnation appeared, turning into 2 reincarnation tablets. They suppressed forward. Boom. The green flame stopped 1 meter in front of Lin Xian. One of the reincarnation tablets directly suppressed it. The green flames were instantly torn apart. How is that possible? Ghostly Eyes Elder's pupils shrank. He took 2 steps back and spat out a mouthful of blood. His soul was injured. What was with the other party's golden eyes? How could they be so powerful? He knew that he had been careless. The young man in front of him was actually so terrifying. The other party's eye technique did not seem to be weaker than his. Damn it! He gritted his teeth and wanted to attack again, but it was already too late. The other reincarnation tablet was still suppressing him. Damn it! Block it for me! His ghost eye turned into a green flame that surged into the sky and swept up. But in an instant, it was pierced through by the reincarnation tablet. Ghostly Eyes Elder's body was sent flying while spitting out blood. He screamed crazily. His soul was severely injured. His eyes were also bleeding nonstop. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian shook his head. Your eye technique is really not that good. Damn it. Ghostly Eyes Elder roared, crazily. He was actually injured, and his soul was severely injured. He was injured by a young man. He could not bear it. Who are you? What kind of eye technique are you cultivating? He roared crazily. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Ignorant thing, you can't even recognize my eye technique. It seems that you are also an ant. Lin Xian's words completely infuriated the other party. Kid, just you wait. You are dead meat. I am going to gouge out your eyes. I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. As he spoke, the ghost-eyed old man fled into the distance. Lin Xian snorted. You still want to leave? Reincarnation millstone. The heavenly secret divine eyes erupted once again. The gaze inside turned into a millstone that kept spinning. Every time it crushed, heaven and earth would shatter. An extremely strong soul storm swept in all directions. Ghostly Eyes Elder felt that his soul was cracking. Chapter 4980. Ghost Eye Elder was terrified. Was he, a supreme sage, going to die here? Damn it, how dare the other party kill him? Wasn't he afraid of the Ghost Eye clan's revenge? However, he had no way of knowing all of this. His soul had been shattered, and he had completely fallen. However, before he died, he still roared crazily. Soul pursuit order. In the distance, the people who had escaped were still discussing when they suddenly realized that the sacred realm in front of them was slowly disappearing. They knew that the battle was over, and that kid was dead for sure. They wanted to wait a while before going over to investigate. However, at this moment, an indignant roar came from the void. Kid, although I'm dead, the Ghost Eye clan won't let you off. Hearing this, their faces were full of shock. What was going on? That supreme sage was dead. What a joke. They had crazy looks on their faces. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He could already sense that there were countless powerful souls in the distance. They began to look over. The people of the Ghost Eye clan should have known. His body flickered, and he decided to leave this place first. As expected, the people of the Ghost Eye clan roared crazily. The fall of a supreme sage was also a big deal to them. After all, that was a supreme sage. It was not easy to cultivate to such a level. Every supreme sage was incomparably powerful. Generally, it was very difficult to kill a supreme sage in a battle of the same level unless several people ganged up on them. Now that a supreme sage had fallen, how could they not be shocked? In an instant, countless experts swarmed over. However, they were destined to be disappointed. When they arrived, Lin Xian had already left. Only a fallen supreme sage was left. Damn it. They gritted their teeth and roared. Suddenly, they turned their heads to look into the distance. There were still people there. They shouted coldly, "Get over here. All of you." Those people's faces became incomparably pale. They were in despair, and some even wanted to escape. However, the ghost fire in the sky directly descended, and a few people's souls instantly screamed in pain. "Don't do it. We won't run." They begged for mercy frantically. After these people all arrived, the powerhouses of the Ghost Eye clan asked coldly, "Who killed our people?" It was a young man who was also here to take the assessment to join the Hell Killer Order. Someone said, "What? A young man? What a joke. A young man can kill a supreme sage. Do you think we're easy to fool?" A middle-aged man shouted angrily and turned the person who spoke into a bloody mist. The others felt their scalps go numb, but it was really a young man who killed him. In the end, the people of the Ghost Eye clan also frowned. No matter how they threatened him, these people said that he was a young man. Could he really be a young man? They were extremely puzzled. Some experts said, "Collect the souls." They collected the souls of these people. his brows furrowed tightly. It was indeed a young man. Damn it, who was it? Now that she knew his face, he would definitely not let her leave. The Ghost Eye clan mobilized countless experts and began to search for this young man. On the other side, after Lin Xian left that place, he quickly discovered that someone was chasing after him. However, he had already changed his appearance and aura. Therefore, when those people investigated, they didn't find anything. Lin Xian sneered. The people of the Ghost Eye clan didn't find anything either. They gritted their teeth. Someone said that we should send some people to continue the search, and we should also send people to the testing grounds. Didn't those people say that he was here to prepare for the Hell Killer assessment? When the time comes, he will definitely appear for the assessment. As long as we watch from the location of the assessment, when the time comes, we will be able to lock onto the target. Good. The people of the Ghost Eye clan began to move. On the other side, it was time for the assessment to begin. One had to know that there were many people who wanted to join the Hell Killer organization. Because once selected, they could learn the supreme killing techniques of the Hell Killer organization. They also had extremely terrifying hidden techniques. These techniques couldn't be detected by ordinary souls at all. As for the killing techniques, they could kill with one strike. It could be said that both were supreme techniques. Because of this, there were many people participating. The dozens of people who were with Lin Xian were only a part of them. The assessment was even more cruel. The assessment was very simple. Win 300 matches in a row. Those who came to participate would fight with each other. As long as they could win 300 matches in a row, they could become a member of the Hell Killer organization. Those who came to participate in the assessment were all top geniuses. Winning 300 matches in a row was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. In other words, the number of people who could pass the assessment in the end would be very few. Actually, this was very normal. For killers, every time they moved out, they would definitely kill. They could kill people who were several levels higher than them. Only when they tried to assassinate Lin Xian would they fail. In other situations, it was rare for him to fail. Many of the heads of the Kill Temple were piled up by great saints. It could be said that they were extremely terrifying. The battle had already begun. There were no rules. After all, they were choosing killers. They could use any secret techniques or martial arts. They could even poison or kill. As long as they failed, they would be seriously injured. It was very likely that they would die. Once the battle began, a bloody mist spread out. Soon, corpses were carried away. The others watched with solemn expressions. They knew that they couldn't be careless. The people from the Killer Temple looked at this scene and smirked. This was the effect they were looking for. The assessment place was called Azura Valley. At the moment, the ground was red, and there were countless mountains around the valley. Those mountains formed spectator stands. At the moment, there were some people sitting on the spectator stands. Among them were the people of the Ghost Eye clan. The people of the Ghost Eye clan frowned. So far, they hadn't found the person they were looking for. It wasn't that there weren't any experts here. It was that these experts had been famous for a long time. They were very famous in the underworld. Look at that person. He had won more than 280 battles in a row with a dagger. He was very powerful. Moreover, he wasn't famous. He was unfamiliar and worthy of attention. The people of the Ghost Eye clan stared into the distance. There was indeed a young figure there. His face was ordinary, but his methods were extremely neat. There was another person who had also won more than 280 battles. He was almost at 290 battles. This person wore a blood-red robe and held a blood-red sword in his hand. Every time he stabbed, he could absorb the opponent's blood and soul. It could be said that he was very terrifying. This person was also invincible. Everyone who fell into his hands died. None of them could leave alive. Not only did the people of the Ghost Eye clan notice it, but others also noticed it. Outside the valley on a mountain peak, A man was sitting there. He was wearing battle armor. His eyes were filled with a sea of blood. He was very terrifying. Beside him was a woman wearing blood-red battle armor. Her face was beautiful, but her eyes were also filled with biting cold, killing intent. At this moment, she stretched out her white jade-like hand and pointed in front. "Father, look, that person's strength is not bad. Moreover, his sword should be a special saint weapon." They were pointing at the terrifying man with the blood-red sword. Chapter 49:81. This person should be called Gui Weep. Blood Fury Saint's eyes flickered. Not bad. If he can achieve 300 consecutive victories and successfully break through, then he can come to my blood slaughter camp. I will train him well. The lady in armor beside him was also laughing. He should be able to break through and complete the test in 10 more battles. The last 10 battles should not be a problem for him. They were waiting. Gui Weep swept his blood sword in all directions. He was a little excited. There were only 10 battles left. Although he knew that it would be more troublesome in the end, he did not care. With his strength, it was not a problem for him to pass the test. Who dares to fight with me? Gui Weep looked in all directions and shouted coldly. The surrounding people were silent. What a joke! If they fought with him, they would only end up dead. Moreover, he had already won 290 battles. Who would dare to fight with such a super expert? Even a normal great saint would not dare to. However, at this moment, a figure walked out from the crowd. He came to the Azura battlefield. Who is it? It must be an expert. If he is still going up, he must be a terrifying person. When they looked carefully, they were stunned. They realized that the person who went up was only a great saint. Moreover, he did not look very strong. Such a person dares to challenge him? Did he want to throw his life away? At this moment, someone from Murdering Palace walked out. He looked like a judge. He said coldly, "You are too weak. We suspect that you are here to give away your battle record. Get lost." The person who went up looked at the judge and smiled. "Senior, if I lose, you don't have to do anything. I will jump down to the 18th level of hell. I will not give away my battle record. I am here to take his battle record." This person was none other than Lin Xian. After Lin Xian killed Ghost Eye Grand Sage, he changed his appearance and aura again and came to the Azura battlefield. After watching some battles, he understood the rules. Therefore, he felt that it was time for him to make a move. The elder from Murdering Palace said, "All right, you said it. If I see that you are not as strong as him, I will not let you go. I won't let you get away with this." The elder warned and retreated to the side. He stared coldly at Lin Xian. He couldn't believe that this man could fight Ghost Weep. Ghost Weep, on the other hand, didn't care at all. She said, "Go ahead, I'll send you to hell." As he spoke, he slashed out with his sword. The overflowing sword light turned into a river, descending between heaven and earth. This was the water of the river of blood, enough to envelop everything. Lin Xian laughed. If the other party dared to act so casually in front of him, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. The boundless law of death in his hand condensed into a law sword. The black sword light cut through the air and slashed forward as well. Whoosh! Clang! The two swords collided. Ghost Weep's smile froze. He felt that his opponent's sword chi was too strong. It swept towards him and enveloped his arm in an instant. In the next moment, the power of death burst out and took away all of the vitality on his arm. One of his arms was reduced to bones. Not only did it have the aura of death, but it also had an extremely strong power that directly cut off his arm. With a blood-curdling scream, he retreated nonstop. His blood splattered onto the Azura battlefield. He was injured. The surrounding people were also stunned. They all widened their eyes in disbelief. Previously, they were speculating. Lin Xian might not even be able to block one sword, and would definitely die. But now, the one who was injured was Ghost Weep. The judge squinted his eyes. Fighting above his level? He was a genius. In the distance, on the spectator stand, the Bloodkill Saint was also surprised. He didn't expect another genius to appear. His daughter, Xue Linglong, was beside him. It was really exciting. This should be a fierce battle. Kid, you have completely angered me. Ghost Weep's arm was found again. This time, there were purple scales on it, as if it was a demonic hand from hell. The strength of his arm was a few times stronger than before. At the same time, the blood sword in his hand released a demonic light as he slashed out. It was as if he had turned into a blood-colored shark covering the sky and earth. This time, he didn't hold back at all. Lin Xian waved the law sword, which had an extremely sharp aura. There was also a deep roar, which was the sound of a dragon. Clang! There was an intense collision sound. Then, Ghost Weep retreated again. His demonic arm was also trembling nonstop. The light on the blood sword dimmed. There were even cracks that appeared. This caused his pupils to contract fiercely. Damn it, what terrifying power! What sharp sword chi! Who are you? He spoke in a deep voice. His opponent was so powerful, it was impossible for him to be unknown. If you want to know who I am, let's see if you are qualified. If you can make me retreat, I will tell you my name. You are courting death. How dare you look down on me? Azure Dragon goes to sea. The blood-colored sword was waved nonstop, turning into a sea of blood. Countless sword chi flew out from the sea of blood. The scene was like countless azure dragons going to sea. It was also an absolute art, and it was a sure kill move. This time, his opponent couldn't escape at all. He could only take it head on. The others held their breaths in the face of such a terrifying sword. Would Lin Xian be able to withstand it? Lin Xian, on the other hand, burst into laughter. What kind of dragon is this? Let me tell you what a real dragon should be like. Behind Lin Xian, 10,000 dragon phantoms appeared, letting out a terrifying dragon roar. Around him, the sky fell and the earth cracked. Then, each of the dragon phantoms shot out a sword light, which covered the sky and the earth. The two killer moves collided again, and the entire Azura battlefield was completely destroyed. Countless black holes were floating between heaven and earth. How was the battle? Everyone was extremely nervous. Even the experts from Killer Temple, Saint Bloodkill, and the others were curious and looking forward to it. After the sword, the black holes between heaven and earth slowly disappeared. Then, everyone was shocked. In the next moment, they exclaimed. They realized that Lin Xian stood there without retreating or moving. On the other side, Ghost Weep had indeed retreated far away, and there were many sword wounds on his body. Saint blood dripped from his wounds. Ghost Weep was injured again. Everyone exclaimed. Ghost Weep's face became extremely ugly. This person's strength was actually above his. Right now, his entire body was trembling. The sword chi was extremely cold. He couldn't recover from his injuries? Damn it, was he going to lose today? Just as he was thinking, Lin Xian took a step forward. Take my sword. If I can survive, I won't attack again. The sword of law in Lin Xian's hand suddenly burst out with a terrifying light, as if it had turned into a true peerless divine sword flying forward. Not good. Ghost Weep's face changed. Even Linglong, Xue stood up abruptly. The Bloodkill Saint also frowned. The power of this sword had shocked even him. Chapter 4982. Father, aren't you going to stop it? Linglong Xue asked. She could tell that if Ghost Weep couldn't block this sword, he might die. It would be a pity for such a genius to die. Saint Bloodkill's expression was solemn. He said that since the Azura battlefield opened, No saint's item had been used to stop it. If Ghost Weep could block it, it meant that he was a genius. If he couldn't, then he deserved it. Ling Long Shui sat down. Indeed, there had been geniuses who had died before. Whether they could survive or not would depend on the other party's ability. However, before they could say anything, the people from the Killer Temple roared and told them to stop. But it was too late. The sword was already in front of Ghost Weep. Ghost Weep roared and used his injured body to attack with all his might. Ghost God's hand. Heaven's wrath. A thunderous sword pierced through the 9 heavens. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts descended from the sky and swept across. In the sea of lightning, there was a roar. It made one scalp go numb. Damn it, I can't accept this. Everyone was terrified. They could tell that it was Ghost Weep's voice. Could it be that Ghost Weep was defeated? When the sea of sword light and lightning disappeared, everyone was stunned. Ghost Weep was nowhere to be seen. There was only a purple arm holding a broken sword. The rest had disappeared. Is he dead? Ling Long Shui exclaimed. Saint Blood Kill sighed. What a pity. A man from Killer Temple stood up with a gloomy face. He stared at Lin Xian. I said stop. Can't you understand? It was obvious that more than one person thought highly of Ghost Weep. It was a pity for such a genius to die. Lin Xian said. Senior stop was a little too late. Moreover, when I participated in the test, no one told me that I couldn't kill anyone here. This Ghost Weep won more than 290 battles and killed 290 geniuses. I didn't see anyone telling me to stop. You. That expert's face turned green. What a sharp-tongued kid. I want to see how far you can go. Senior, you don't have to worry. Lin Xian smiled faintly. After killing Ghost Weep, all of Ghost Weep's achievements would be his. He looked around. There were still 10 battles left. Who was willing to fight with him? Following that, more and more people went up. Lin Xian fought against them and won 5 rounds in a row. This shocked everyone. He was just too powerful. However, the Blood Overlord frowned slightly. This person seemed to be a little too arrogant. However, at this moment, someone in the distance said, I think it's normal. Geniuses were all prideful, and he was clearly a genius who was stronger than Ghost Weep. It was normal for him to have a bit of a temper and pride. Many people were shocked when they heard this. Who would dare to refute the Blood Fiend Saint? When they turned around, they were surprised to see that it was the Soul Sage. The Blood Fiend Saint squinted his eyes. Was an old friend here. The Bloodkill Saint, controlled the Blood Evil camp and had countless powerful assassins. The Soul Sage Monarch had the same status as him. Furthermore, the Soul Sage Monarch also controlled a faction called the Soul Sage Monarch, which also had countless killer saints. The two sides were in a competitive relationship, and they even had some conflicts because of a certain mission. He didn't expect to meet the Soul Sage Monarch here. The Bloodkill Saint said, Oh, Brother Soul, could it be that you think highly of this kid? After greeting the Soul Sage Monarch, Shui Linglong also bowed. Although there were conflicts between the two sides, the other party was still a senior, and they had to be polite on the surface. The Soul Sage Monarch was a middle-aged man without a beard. No one outside would have thought that he was a terrifying killer saint. Beside him was a young man. It was his son, Soul Cliff. He sat down nearby and smiled. That's right. I do think highly of this young man. I feel that he hasn't used his full strength. Is that so? Since we have different opinions, why don't we have a bet? Whose foresight is better? I feel that he will definitely lose the next 5 rounds. He won't be able to pass the test. Then I will bet that he will win. The Soul Sage Monarch smiled. I just got a piece of hellfire. If brother wins, I will give you the piece of hellfire. All right. The Bloodkill Saint also smiled. I also got a spiritual pearl that is very helpful for soul power. If brother wins, I will give you the soul pearl. The surrounding people were shocked. The two saints actually had a conflict because of a young man. However, some people knew that it had nothing to do with Lin Xian. The two saints already had conflicts, and this was just another fight. Both of them wanted to suppress the other, but no one knew who would win this time. Thinking of this, they all looked at Lin Xian. Everything depended on this kid. Xue Linglong smiled and stood out. She looked at the candidates in the distance and said, "My Lord Father said, in the next 5 rounds, my Lord Father will accept whoever wins him as his disciple." Once these words were spoken, countless people were in an uproar. They all knew this woman in crimson clothes. She was Xue Linglong, the precious daughter of the Blood-Kill Saint. Her words were the Blood-Kill Saint's words. Could it be that the Blood-Kill Saint had a grudge with the kid below? Many people's eyes instantly turned red. If they could defeat the kid on the stage, then they could become the Blood-Kill Saint's disciple. The Blood-Kill Saint was a late-stage great saint. His strength was unparalleled. His assassination technique was even more unpredictable. It was said that he had never failed. Lin Xian furrowed his brows tightly as he lifted his head and looked into the distance. There was a figure sitting there. He was surrounded by a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. He was abnormally terrifying, like a killing god. Had he seen this person before? Had he offended this person? He didn't think so. Why was the other party targeting him? On the viewing platform, the Soul-Kill Saint squinted his eyes. Hanya, who was at the side, said that the senior was unscrupulous. The Soul-Kill Saint shouted angrily and shut his mouth. "Is the sage someone that you can judge?" That young man's face changed and stood up. "It was my Lord Father. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Blood-Kill Saint." The Blood-Kill Saint laughed. It was normal for a young man to be angry. However, it was normal for him to say that he was unscrupulous. Therefore, whether he could pass the next 5 rounds or not would depend on his fate. The Blood-Kill Saint didn't avoid such methods. In his opinion, this was the most normal thing. In the past, he had done even more unimaginable things to assassinate his enemies. In his opinion, it was fine as long as he could succeed. After Xue Linglong's words and went out, those candidates had already started to discuss. Another figure walked out. "Kid, I originally wanted to preserve my strength and didn't plan to make a move on you. However, I didn't expect such a situation to happen. All right, then I will show my true strength. You should obediently admit defeat. Otherwise, you will definitely die." Chapter 4983. It was Spirit Blood Child. Many people exclaimed when they saw the young man walking over. Obviously, he was a very famous person. He was even more famous than Ghost Weep. They did not expect that even he would be alarmed this time. That guy had hidden his strength very well. No one knew his full strength. Exclamations of surprise sounded one after another. "Are you here to die?" Lin Xian laughed loudly. "Do you think you'll be able to live to take the best offer?" Ignorant ant. Spirit Blood Child was furious. How could the other party know his strength? He snorted coldly, waved his bloody hands, and pounced forward. With a crack, the entire world was torn apart by him. Mountains of corpses and seas of blood surrounded him. Countless living beings had been killed by his hands. Lin Xian also struck out with his palm. His palm was extremely simple and did not seem to emit any light. Lin Xian had deliberately used that move. After all, he was going to use the 9-yang body, which might alarm these people. There were not many self-strengthening physiques in the starry sky, so he did not want to attract any attention here. "Humph, do you know that an ant wants to compete with me in terms of physique? How many saints have I broken with my hands? You're next." Spirit Blood Child sneered and attacked even faster. With a clang, he slapped the other party's palm. "Break your hand." However, the other party's hand did not break. The other party's palm was like a peerless divine weapon that stopped him. You're the one who doesn't know what's good for you. Lin Xian exerted force with his palm, and with a crack he broke the other party's bloody claws. Spirit Blood Child screamed and retreated. His bones were exposed from his wounds. Spirit Blood Child gritted his teeth and roared. Meanwhile, Lin Xian took a step forward. Take my claw too. He stretched out his hand, and this time it seemed to have turned into a dragon claw that covered the sky. Dragon claw hand. Get lost! Spirit Blood Child's broken palm regenerated, and he struck out with both palms, stirring up a sea of blood. Boom! He was sent flying backward like a kite with a broken string. Countless people were in an uproar when they saw that. Spirit Blood Child was very powerful, but he was defeated in 2 moves. Who would dare to go up? Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back, inadvertently glancing at the mountain peak in the distance. On the mountain peak, Ling Long Shui was instantly enraged. She said, "This brat is challenging you, father. Why don't I teach him a lesson?" Blood Fiend Saint waved his hand. Ling Long, sit down quietly and watch patiently. He snorted coldly in his heart. What an interesting kid. Obviously, the other party seemed to have understood what was going on. But so what? He was merely using his opponent to fight against the Soul Sage Monarch. In the end, his only opponent was the Soul Sage Monarch. This kid in front of him was no different from an ant in his eyes. Blood Spirit Child left in a sorry state. He had come here arrogantly and left with his tail between his legs. It was truly embarrassing. However, everyone knew that it wasn't that Schwellingsie was weak. It was that the young man in front of them was too strong. Who could suppress him? From what I can tell, this guy has the battle prowess of a great sage. Indeed, this young man was very powerful. Countless discussions could be heard. On another mountain peak, the people of the Ghost Eye clan also narrowed their eyes. An elder said, "Do you think he looks like this kid?" Another elder nodded. "He does look like him." An unfamiliar face, super strength, and ruthless means. If the people of our Ghost Eye clan really had any ideas about him, he might have killed them mercilessly. Perhaps he really did do it. Test him. Send someone down. See if he has the mark of our Ghost Eye clan on him. An elder instructed. Another elder said, "I think we should just kill him. It's better to kill by mistake than to let him go." Everyone nodded and looked at a man behind them. "Go ahead." That man said respectfully, "Yes, elder." His figure floated down. The surrounding people were silent. They thought that no one would dare to challenge Lin Xian again. But now, someone else went up. Many people looked over. When they saw the pair of gray eyes, they exclaimed. It was the Ghost Eye clan. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. Was it someone from the Ghost Eye clan? How could he not know? He had killed a great sage of the Ghost Eye clan. What was the meaning of this person coming at this time? Was he here to test him? Or was he here to suppress him? After Ghost Eye clan's Ghost Eye clan's Ghost Eye clan's Ghost Eye technique, he began to investigate. When Lin Xian saw this, he instantly understood. The other party was suspecting him. But so what? The other party couldn't find anything. As expected, Ghost Eye frowned slightly. He couldn't find anything. But the elder said that it was better to kill by mistake than to let him go. He wouldn't show mercy. His eyes emitted a gray light like an abyss. At the same time, a terrifying aura spread forward. Become my ghost servant. Ghost Eye revealed a sinister smile. His strength was definitely not something that this person in front of him could resist. The surrounding candidates also kept retreating. They felt as if their souls were being burned by a raging fire. It was too terrifying. This person was an expert in eye techniques. It's over. That kid is in danger. Lin Xian's lips curled into a cold smile. Competing with him in eye techniques? Even the great sage of the Ghost Eye clan was defeated, let alone this person. A cold radiance appeared in his eyes as he charged forward. The soul power of both parties clashed in the air, tearing everything apart. Although both of them stood still, everyone knew that this kind of attack was even more dangerous. The slightest carelessness would cause both their soul and heart to be destroyed. He actually knew soul power. It seemed even more suspicious. Ghost, I snorted. Just as he was about to gather all his strength, the next moment his eye technique was instantly torn apart. A terrifying aura poured into his mind. It caused his soul to sway. Damn it. He wanted to resist, but the energy strengthened and turned into a human figure. It was like a god looking down on him. Those golden eyes made him want to kneel down and submit. With a plop, he knelt on the ground. When the surrounding people saw this, they were in an uproar. The top expert of the Ghost Eye clan actually knelt down. What was going on? Some of the experts who were watching were shocked. Was his eye technique defeated? Ghost Eye clan was defeated. What kind of soul power did this kid use? When they wanted to investigate, the golden light in Lin Xian's eyes had disappeared. On the mountain peak, the elders of the Ghost Eye clan saw this scene and suddenly stood up. Each of them was shocked. Damn it, Ghost Eye, stand up! They shouted angrily. The other party knelt down. This was a disgrace to their clan. However, Ghost Eye was incomparably respectful at this moment. He was completely controlled and did not care about other voices at all. Lin Xian stretched out his hand and knelt over. Ghost Eye crawled on the ground and crawled to Lin Xian's feet. Lin Xian laughed out loud. The others were even more shocked. However, the two elders could not hold it in anymore. They released a terrifying aura, and their piercing gazes shot over. Kid, do you want to die? The other party was challenging them. Chapter 4984. Boom. Their killing intent was shattered by the soul sword in midair. The soul sage said indifferently, "Since when were outsiders allowed to interfere in the Azura battlefield? Are you guys trying to break the rules?" The soul sage looked over, causing the two elders of the Ghost Eye race to tremble. Even though they were great sages, as well, they were still far from being comparable to the soul sage. The two of them shook their heads. No, they wouldn't dare. One of them said, "Soul Sage, please calm down. I suspect that this kid has ambushed one of our geniuses and one of our great sages. We would like to request for a soul search." The moment these words came out, countless people were in an uproar as they looked at Lin Xian. This kid had killed a great sage before? Lin Xian stood there and laughed coldly. Why? Just because I defeated a genius of your family, you guys want to frame me? The Ghost Eye race was truly despicable. Was this how the underworld treated geniuses? What a disappointment. Enough. The soul sage snorted coldly. Ghost Eye race, don't let others laugh at you. This test is for the top geniuses. Do you have any proof that he killed your great sage? No. The two of them gritted their teeth and sat down with cold faces. One of them sent a voice transmission. "Kid, do you think you can be arrogant just because you have the protection of the soul sage? Just you wait. I'll see how you die after the Azura battlefield." This was a warning to Lin Xian. Lin Xian laughed coldly and sent a voice transmission as well. "You two old things, I'm the one who killed your great sage. Come and bite me if you're unhappy." The moment the two of them heard this, their eyes widened. They stood up once more and were filled with killing intent. Damn it! However, they didn't dare to make a move. Now that Lin Xian had displayed such a strong talent, the soul sage thought highly of him. If they were to make a move now, they would be courting death. However, they would definitely not let this kid off. Since this kid was the one who did it, they would pay any price. Next, Lin Xian passed all the tests and successfully completed 300 rounds. "Seems like I've won." The soul sage looked at this scene and chuckled. The Bloodkill Sage also said, "You've really opened my eyes. To think that the underworld would have such a genius. This time, I admit defeat wholeheartedly. It wasn't that he didn't have good foresight, but that Lin Xian was just too talented. Such a person was very rare. His appearance here really surprised him. However, he made up his mind that he would not let this genius go. He didn't want to kill the other party. Instead, he wanted to take the other party under his wing and make him a capable subordinate." At this moment, Soul Sage Lord stood up and said, Lin Xian turned around and looked. He knew that this great sage late was very strong. He took a deep breath. The infernal evil eye on his back was sealed by Xia Juyo. Even a saint shouldn't be able to detect it. Therefore, he felt much more at ease. With a faint smile, Lin Xian cupped his fists. "What instructions does Senior have?" "Young man, the reason why those people targeted you was all because of me. I made a bet with the Blood Fiend Saint. It's about whether or not you can win. That's why they're targeting you. Now that you've won, I've obtained a soul bead from old brother Blood Fiend. I plan to give it to you. After all, you've just experienced an extremely dangerous situation." As soon as these words were spoken, countless people were in an uproar. It turned out that it was because of the two saints. At the same time, they were incomparably envious. The soul bead that a saint took out was definitely a top-grade soul bead. This item was extremely rare. It was formed by the condensation of countless souls. This was the essence of soul energy. If one obtained it, it would be of great help to the soul energy of a saint. After hearing this, Lin Xian was stunned. However, he also knew how powerful the soul bead was. Therefore, he said, "Thank you, Senior." If he obtained it, his soul energy would increase again. At that time, his soul energy wouldn't be weaker than a great sage intermediate. In the underworld, his life-saving means would also be stronger. Subsequently, Lin Xian obtained a soul bead. It was the size of a fist. There were countless souls, aura revolving around it. He took it and retreated to the side. He sat down cross-legged and began to absorb it. The surrounding people were all envious. However, with two saints here, no one dared to be presumptuous. They could only watch as the kid absorbed it. Lin Xian tried to absorb some of it. He realized that it was really pure soul energy. There was no need to worry. Just like that, he quickly devoured it. On the other side, the competition continued. Very few people were able to complete 300 consecutive victories. However, there was still someone who did it. It was a person with an extremely ordinary face. He was so ordinary that if he was placed in a crowd, no one would notice him. The other party was holding a dagger and waving it gently. He could easily reap lives. This shocked countless experts. The elder of the assassin temple was also satisfied. This person was simply born for assassination. That's right. The other party was too calm and decisive. One hit, one kill. Even if he didn't succeed, he would escape 1,000 miles away. This was different from Lin Xian. Lin Xian had previously displayed powerful strength and talent. However, those methods weren't for assassination. Therefore, even if one wanted to become an assassin, one had to be nurtured and specially trained. However, the person in front of him only needed to provide resources and some more powerful martial arts. Therefore, many people had their eyes on him. Lin Xian didn't know it all. He felt that his soul energy was rapidly increasing. It was a pleasant surprise. He knew that the underworld was just an experience for him. It was just like in other worlds. The cultivation speed here was even faster than in the St. Origin Ancient City. It wasn't that the resources in the St. Origin Ancient City were poor. It was just that the ancient city had all kinds of protection. Prison was a place that existed specifically for assassinations. Here, killing was very common. It could be said that every martial artist's life was on the verge of death. they might not be able to see the sun the next day. Under such circumstances, it was very easy to break through one's limit. When all the candidates were done, Lin Xian and the ordinary youth were invited over. Lin Xian went to the mountain peak. After greeting the two seniors, Lin Xian looked at the two sages and bowed. The two sages nodded. "Young man, you don't have to be so polite. We still don't know how to address you. My name is Lin Wudi." Lin Wudi, what an arrogant name. The two sages were greatly surprised. Even they didn't dare to call him Wudi. Xue Linglong stared at him carefully. "Even Han, you did the same." The two of them also introduced themselves. The three of them were familiar with each other. At this time, Hanya said, "Lin Gongzi, come join us. We will give you the best treatment and let you grow quickly." Xue Linglong also stood up and said, "What you have, our blood evil camp also has." Obviously, the two sides started to argue. Lin Xian looked calm, as if it had nothing to do with him. The two sages were shocked when they saw this scene. Hanya said, "This matter isn't urgent. The winner still has a chance to go to the underworld fire to train. It won't be too late to talk about it after the training." Hanya's expression changed when he heard this. Even Xue Linglong looked over and asked, "Lin Gongzi, are you willing to join the underworld fire to train?" Chapter 4985. What was the power of hellfire? Lin Xian asked curiously. It was a test of willpower. Linglong Xue said that hellfire was a strange land of flames in hell. The flames there could burn the 9 heavens and melt everything. After entering, one would have to endure a heart-wrenching test. If one's physique was strong enough, they would be able to withstand it. However, no matter how strong one's physique was, they would not be able to withstand it for a long time. What was left was a test of willpower. To become a killer of hell, one had to have a strong willpower. One had to be able to deal with any situation calmly. Hellfire was specially prepared for the victors of the 300 battles. Lin Xian's eyes lit up when he heard this. He did not care about the test of willpower. After all, he did not plan to become a killer saint. What he cared about was that Linglong Xue said that he could cultivate his physique. After cultivating the 9 yang divine body to this point, it was very difficult to find a magical flame. Hellfire was obviously unique to hell. Therefore, he did not plan to miss it. He nodded. Naturally, he was willing. Next, Lin Xian was invited to rest. 3 days later, he would have to cultivate hellfire. Hellfire would open every once in a while. Only those who passed the test could enter. In addition, some of the original geniuses of hell could also enter. For example, Linglong Xue, Hanya, and the others were completely qualified. In addition to them, there were also some others. In short, there were quite a number of people. However, it was not certain who would be able to last until the end. 3 days later, Hanya and Linglong Xue both came to invite Lin Xian. The three of them walked towards Hell Canyon together. It was an extremely terrifying canyon that split the earth into 2 halves. There were extremely terrifying flames spreading within. It was hellfire. At this moment, there were already many people standing outside the canyon. Some of them were like Lin Xian. They were victors who had passed the test. There were also some local powerhouses like Linglong Xue and Hanya. These people were gathered together. In addition, there were a few older powerhouses who were in charge of guarding. When they saw Lin Xian and the others arrive, many people looked over, especially Lin Xian. Among them, there was a person with a venomous gaze. He stood out and said, "You're just an ant. What right do you have to stand with us geniuses? Get lost." Many people were in an uproar when they heard this. Ant. How could this Lin Xian be an ant? However, no one dared to get angry because the one who spoke was a genius from the Ghost Eye clan. The Ghost Eye clan was a top-notch clan, and no one dared to provoke them. However, Ling Long Shui snorted coldly. Lin Gongzi had won 300 consecutive battles and entered based on his strength. If you call him an ant, then what are you? If you have the ability, go and get a 300-win streak first. Don't think that you can be arrogant here just because you're from a family. The genius of the Ghost Eye clan was so angry that he almost vomited blood. On the other side, Ghost Li, who was in the crowd, had an ugly expression on his face. Right now, the seal on his soul had been undone. However, when he found out about that day, he actually knelt. He had lost all his face. When he saw Lin Xian this time, he was filled with murderous intent, but he didn't dare to make a move. This was because Exquisite Blood and Soul Cliff were standing beside Lin Xian. These two people were very powerful, and their identities were very high. They were the descendants of sages. Who dared to provoke them? Therefore, the Ghost Eye clan had been slapped in the face in front of everyone, and they couldn't retaliate. Humph! I want to see if you can withstand the burning of the hellfire. They gritted their teeth. Lin Xian walked out and said, "What? Are some of you not convinced by me? I'll stand here and give those who are not convinced a chance. If anyone can make me take a step back, I'll let them do whatever they want with me. If they lose, I'll destroy their soul. Do you dare?" A cold voice sounded. Everyone's scalps went numb. No one dared to gamble with their lives. When he saw that everyone was silent, Lin Xian snorted and walked back. "All right, at this moment," an elder said, "it's about to begin." Everyone took a deep breath. Was the hellfire finally going to be activated? "Lin Gongzi, let's go." Exquisite Blood smiled. Lin Xian nodded. His figure flashed as he walked toward the canyon ahead. In the next moment, Exquisite Blood and Han Ya also rose into the air. In an instant, they entered the canyon. After these people entered, another figure walked over from afar. This person was riding a war horse. The war horse was fiery red, and there were terrifying black flames burning on it. It was unusually mighty. On the war horse, there was a figure in armor. He was even more handsome. The arrival of this man caused the elders to walk up. They didn't expect the young master to come. The few of them bowed, respectfully. The man smiled. "It's nothing. I heard that a few days ago. An interesting guy appeared during the assessment. So I came to take a look. An interesting guy." The elders were stunned. Then they thought of someone. Wasn't it that little guy? It was said that he was very powerful. He even made the Ghost Shadow clan kneel. Lin Xian didn't know about what happened above. After he entered, he felt an extremely terrifying force enveloping him. It was as if it wanted to burn him to ashes. What a terrifying hellfire. Lin Xian wasn't frightened. Instead, he was very happy. Only such flames could make his physique stronger. Lin Xian was not the only one who felt it. The other people felt it as well, and their expressions turned extremely grim. They had just entered, and it was already so terrifying. The flames below would probably be even more terrifying. What followed next would be a torment. Exquisite Blood smiled. "When I saw them, I was about to cry. Only you, young master, are happy. It's really surprising." Lin Xian said, "Aren't I here to gain experience? The stronger I am, the more I can improve." Mysterious runes flickered on his physique. He didn't stop them. Instead, he allowed the flames to burn. Hanya said, "Young master, the hellfire is more terrifying as we go down. My father collected hellfire before, so I refined it in advance. It can be used. If you feel that it's too much for you during the descent, then stop immediately. Don't take the risk." Exquisite Blood nodded. "That's right, young master. We've all felt it before. It's your first time here, so you might not be able to withstand it. So you can cultivate at a higher altitude." Although the two of them seemed to be concerned about Lin Xian, They still felt that although Lin Xian was strong, he was still a little weaker than the two of them. That was why they were able to speak such words. Lin Xian smiled. He didn't explain anything. He said, "All right, I'll listen to the two of you. If I feel that I can't bear it during the descent, then I'll stop." With that, the three of them descended. Chapter 4986. Lin Xian's speed wasn't fast. Some of the stronger ones were very fast and reached the bottom directly. There were also some people who stopped above. However, most of them were descending at a speed faster than Lin Xian. Some of them looked over and laughed coldly. Was it this brat who caused Guili to suffer? I don't think he's much. He's descending so slowly, like a coward. Is such a person worthy of being with us? Some disdainful voices sounded. All of you shut up! Ling Long Shui roared angrily and looked over with a terrifying gaze. Some people's scalps went numb, and they didn't dare to say anything. However, there were also some powerful people who sneered. Is this kid going to hide behind a woman for the rest of his life? Ling Long Shui frowned. Young master, don't bother with them. Lin Xian smiled. It's fine. I wanted to sense the hellfire before, but some people don't know what's good for them. Then I'll let them have a good look. As he spoke, mysterious runes circulated on Lin Xian's physique, and the power of the 9 Yang divine body appeared. He was like a god of war. Suddenly, he absorbed the flames from all directions and descended at an extremely fast speed. This scene stunned countless people. Did this brat want to die? Ling Long Shui, and Ling Long Shui also exclaimed, Young master, not good. If you can't hold on, you'll probably be burned to ashes in an instant. But very soon, they were stunned, because Lin Xian's body wasn't damaged at all. Instead, it became even more mysterious. This kid actually withstood it. Countless people were shocked. Damn it, what's going on with his physique? Even the faces of the top geniuses who had been clamoring earlier turned extremely ugly. The distance that the other party had descended was far greater than theirs. Who was the ant here? They felt like they had been slapped in the face. Ling Long Shui and Ling Long Shui also smiled bitterly. Hanya said, It seems like we were worried for nothing. Ling Long Shui also agreed. They had underestimated Lin Gongzi. The two of them took a deep breath, and a terrifying power erupted from their bodies. They also descended quickly and chased after Lin Xian. That kid actually hid his strength. Damn it, his physique was actually so strong. When the others saw this scene, they began to discuss spiritedly. At that moment, they saw a figure descending from above at an even faster speed. Many people were astonished. Who was this? Had another super expert arrived? They saw a war horse covered in black flames, with a figure sitting on it, quickly descending. When the surrounding people saw this, they all exclaimed in shock. Heavens, isn't he Yin Tianfeng? He actually came as well. Countless people cried out in alarm. They clearly recognized this man. Yin Tianfeng rode his warhorse over and shouted coldly, Is the person you were talking about a newcomer? Yes, that's right, it was him. The people around him nodded. They no longer dared to speak ill of him, because they didn't know why Yin Tianfeng was looking for him. Yin Tianfeng's lips curled into a smile. Where did he go? Bring me to him. On the other side, Lin Xian walked quickly through the hellfire, the surrounding flames burning on his body. However, he remained expressionless. Behind him, Ling Long Shui and Hanya caught up. Their faces were pale. Hanya said, Lin Gongzi, slow down. We know your strength. Ling Long Shui also smiled and said, Sir, your physique is too strong. This is the hellfire. The two of us can't take it anymore. At this point, the two of them smiled bitterly. Previously, they had kindly reminded Lin Xian that he couldn't handle the hellfire. However, it seemed that they might be the ones who couldn't handle it. Lin Xian smiled and said, "I'm also a little tired. Let's cultivate here for a while." The surrounding flames weren't bad, so Lin Xian decided to stay for a while. Ling Long Shui and Hanya were naturally willing. If they continued, they really couldn't take it anymore. Hence, the three of them sat there cross-legged. They allowed the hellfire to envelop their bodies and began to refine their physiques. It was tempering their willpower. After a while, Lin Xian opened his eyes and looked into the distance. He felt a powerful aura surging over. Who was it? Soon, he saw a figure descending. There were many people, but the one walking at the front was a warhorse. The warhorse was surrounded by black flames. There was a figure sitting on the warhorse. He was also extraordinarily mighty. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. The hellfire here was already so terrifying. The others were as if they were facing a great enemy. Their faces were pale. However, this person looked calm. It was obvious that he didn't take it seriously at all. This person was very strong. He was secretly on guard. It seemed that the underworld also had experts. After all, the underworld occupied an entire galaxy. Moreover, it was a very ancient inheritance. It was also an existence that had come out of the land. How could there not be any top geniuses? Would there be any emperor-like existences this time? Lin Xian was looking forward to it. Ling Long Shui and Hanya also sensed something. They turned around and cried out in surprise. "Yin Tianfeng, he's here too?" Lin Xian asked. Was this person very famous? Very famous. He was also a top genius. Previously, 5 sages were chasing after him. In the end, he killed 5 sages in a row and became famous. His strength was very terrifying. Lin Xian was also surprised. His eyes lit up. This man didn't seem to be a great sage yet, but he had the strength to kill 5 great sages in a row. He was indeed a top expert. Yin Tianfeng also saw Lin Xian and the others. He stared at Lin Xian, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Was he such a person? Interesting. His physique was completely different. Yin Tianfeng naturally noticed that Lin Xian was different. Hence, the light in his eyes was also extremely bright. Lin Xian stood up and said, "Can the 2 of you continue?" Ling Long Shui and the others took a deep breath and said yes. Of course. How could they admit defeat so easily? Although they all wanted to rope in Lin Xian, they were all geniuses and had their own pride. If Lin Xian could leave, they could naturally leave too. All right, let's continue. Lin Xian continued to descend. The people behind saw this scene, and their scalps went numb. Damn. This kid is really ruthless. Isn't he afraid that his body will split open? I want to see how far he can descend. It won't take long for him to come up obediently. However, after a long time, Lin Xian and the others still didn't come up. Those people were shocked. Could it be that this kid's physique was really that strong? Yin Tianfeng sneered. He also rode his warhorse and descended quickly. The others were hesitating whether to go or not. They couldn't take it anymore. Some took out their Dharma treasures, while others swallowed pills. They walked over to take a look. They couldn't take it lying down. These people all used their own methods. However, their speed was hundreds of times slower than Lin Xian, Yin Tianfeng, and the others. Chapter 4987. Lin Xian stopped again, feeling the aura here. Even he was shocked. The hellfire in the surroundings had already begun to transform into various kinds of demonic beasts that were crawling in the surroundings. Some were even charging towards them. Linglong and Han were facing a great enemy. They knew they couldn't continue. Lin Xian also said that they should stay here for a long time. Yin Tianfeng also came here. He stopped and started to comprehend too. The hellfire around him started to condense and burn. Soon, an illusion appeared. After the hellfire was refined, it formed 9 hellfire dragons behind him. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws, rushing towards the sky. A terrifying roar was heard, resounding in all directions. The people who had rushed over were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. This was a vision of heaven and earth. Yin Tianfeng was too powerful. He tamed the hellfire not long after he arrived. To form such a vision of heaven and earth, they looked at the godlike existence with endless fear and envy in their eyes. Linglong and Hanya were shocked too. To be honest, they didn't have such skills. Yin Tianfeng was really too powerful. The two shook their heads and sighed. Not to mention them. No one here could surpass Yin Tianfeng. At this moment, Yin Tianfeng walked forward. He came to Linglong and Hanya's side. Linglong and Hanya felt as if they were facing a great enemy. The 9 hellfire dragons behind them gave them a lot of pressure. They said coldly, "What do you want? Do you want to fight here?" Yin Tianfeng looked at the two and shook his head. His gaze landed on Lin Xian. "You're the one who made the Ghost Eye clan kneel, right? Looks like you're just SOSO. I thought you'd be a powerful guy. You've disappointed me." As soon as these words were spoken, many people cried out in surprise. Even Linglong and Linglong frowned. Was Yin Tianfeng here for Lin Xian? Lin Xian frowned when he heard this. He turned around and said, "Are you here for the Ghost Eye clan?" Yin Tianfeng smiled. "The Ghost Eye clan can't afford to hire me." Lin Xian frowned. "Then who are you? Do I know you?" With that, he closed his eyes and ignored the other party. He was just a guy who thought he was infallible. It can't be. This brat is so bold that he dares to ignore Yin Tianfeng. Ha ha ha, he's dead meat. Who did he think he was? Just because he had a 300 win streak, he could behave atrociously in front of Yin Tianfeng Peak? He was too naive. Yin Tianfeng was able to kill 5 saints consecutively. How powerful was he? If he wanted to kill the other party, he could probably do it with a wave of his hand. Linglong Shui and the other two frowned. Although they knew that Lin Xian was strong, he was still lacking compared to Yin Tianfeng. However, they believed that Lin Xian's future would be terrifying. Linglong Shui said, "Yin Tianfeng, what do you want? Lin Gongzi is our guest. So what if he was your guest?" "If he was your father, I would still be courteous to him. But you, it was useless. The two of you combined won't even be enough for me to fight with one hand." Yin Tianfeng's face was full of arrogance. He did not give them any face at all. Linglong Shui clenched her teeth. "Damn it. How dare you look down on us?" Hanya said, "Stop, don't fight with him. We can't beat him." Linglong Shui and the other two were furious. However, they stayed by Lin Xian's side. It seemed that if Yin Tianfeng really wanted to attack, they would also use some tricks. Yin Tianfeng's face was a little gloomy, although he did not care about Linglong Shui. And the other two, Lin Xian in front of him, really made him angry. Did Lin Xian really ignore him? What a joke. Since when did he dare to be ignored? "Brat, I heard that you are favored by 2 saints. You are very talented. Now, it seems that you are just SOSO. Can you be stronger than me?" The 9 hellfire dragons behind him roared into the sky, releasing terrifying flames. Linglong Shui and the other two kept retreating. Their faces were pale. "Damn it, this guy is too arrogant." The others were also shocked. He was too strong. Yin Tianfeng alone was enough to suppress the myriad of worlds and make all the geniuses lose their brilliance. Facing such a terrifying phenomenon, Lin Xian smiled faintly. It was just a little fire control technique. What was there to be proud of? He really did not understand. There was a tinge of disdain in his words. Yin Tianfeng was furious. "A little trick? Do you know how hard it is to control the hellfire? How hard it is to subdue? Do you know that other than me, no one else can control the hellfire? You actually said it was just a little trick? Seems like your standards are too low. I am actually interested in trash like you. What a waste of my time. Ian Tianfeng's expression was extremely cold. To him, this person in front of him was just a rumor. He was not worthy of his attention. Lin Xian said, "Why? Am I wrong? How hard is it to control the hellfire?" The surrounding people were stunned. Was Lin Xian really going to continue challenging Yin Tianfeng? Yin Tianfeng's face darkened. "You said it was not hard to control? You control it. Let me see. If you can condense a hellfire dragon, I will acknowledge you." "Acknowledge me? Who do you think you are? Do I need your acknowledgement?" Lin Xian smiled. "Since your standards are low, I will show you what a real hellfire dragon is." Lin Xian turned around. His eyes were dazzling. "You overestimate yourself," Yin Tianfeng sneered. The 9 hellfire dragons behind him made him look like the god of hell. The surrounding people sneered. This kid also wanted to condense a hellfire dragon. What a joke. Hellfire was so hard to fight against. Other than a few experts who could rely on their physiques, the others had already surpassed their limits. Hence, they took out their magic treasures to defend themselves. Some even took secret pills to be able to come here. However, they felt that it was worth it to see Lin Xian suffer. Lin Xian stood there. He stomped his foot, and the surrounding sea of fire shook violently. Countless flames rose into the sky. Then, it quickly condensed behind Lin Xian. The hellfire was extremely terrifying. Every time it rolled, it would shatter heaven and earth. Gradually, an illusion appeared. Many people widened their eyes. Hellfire dragon. Could it be that he really condensed it? Even Linglong Shui and Hanya were shocked. Lin Gongzi's talent was indeed strong. He could even subdue hellfire. Yin Tianfeng was also stunned. Did he condense it too? To be honest, it was out of his expectations. He had some ability. No wonder he was so arrogant. However, that was all. He could condense 9 hellfire dragons, while Lin Xian could only condense 1. Lin Xian was far from being his opponent. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sneer, but the sneer quickly froze. His eyes were filled with fear, and his body started to tremble. The surrounding people widened their eyes in disbelief. How was this just one hellfire dragon? Behind Lin Xian, an endless sea of fire condensed. 3,000 hellfire dragons appeared and roared into the sky, suppressing the 9 heavens and 10 lands. At this moment, the entire hellfire sea was filled with the loud and clear sound of a dragon. Lin Xian seemed to have turned into a dragon god, looking down on everyone. Chapter 4988. Lin Xian was surrounded by 3,000 hellfire dragons. He looked at Yin Tianfeng and smiled faintly. "Do you still think you're high and mighty?" Yin Tianfeng's face turned extremely pale. His face was filled with fear. Impossible! The 9 fire dragons behind him began to crumble under the suppression of the 3,000 hellfire dragons. Damn it! What did you do? You can't condense so many. He was really crazy. 3,009. How many times was that? Could it be that Lin Fan was a few hundred times stronger than him? What a joke. He wouldn't believe it even if he was beaten to death. Lin Xian didn't answer. He shook his head and said, "I thought there were still some top experts in the underworld. I even thought you were not bad. But now it seems that you've really disappointed me. So that's all you've got. I actually paid attention to you. What a waste of my time." Yin Tianfeng vomited blood. He had mocked Lin Fan before. He didn't expect Lin Fan to return the favor in such a short time. It made him lose face. Linglong Shui and Hanya were both stunned. 3,000 hellfire dragons. What kind of scene was that? It was simply a miracle. Looking at the 9 fire dragons beside Yin Tianfeng, they suddenly felt that the situation was a bit ridiculous. If Yin Tianfeng didn't come to stir up trouble, perhaps nothing would have happened. But now he had shot himself in the foot. In the distance, those people were even more terrified. This guy was so terrifying. Don't provoke him. When he grew up, he might be even more terrifying than Yin Tianfeng. In fact, he might even become a saint in the future. In an instant, countless people looked at Lin Xian with fear in their eyes. Humph, kid, you must have used some despicable method, right? Otherwise, how could you condense 3,000 Hellfire Dragons? If you're capable, fight me. Yin Tianfeng took a step forward. His powerful aura shrouded the surroundings. The surrounding sky kept shattering. The surrounding people were terrified. But there were also people who said, I also think that this kid might have used some tricks. He's definitely not as strong as Yin Tianfeng. Ling Long Shui and Hanya roared, Yin Tianfeng, don't go overboard. Do you really think you can do whatever you want here? Ling Long Shui, I'm giving face to your fathers, but that doesn't mean I can't suppress you. If I want to suppress the two of you, it will be easy for me to win. Yin Tianfeng said coldly. He waved his hand, and a black pagoda floated in his hand, emitting a terrifying aura. Shui Linglong and Shui Linglong's faces turned incomparably ugly. Damn it, the other party had gone too far. Lin Xian turned his head and said, If you want to fight with me, sure, but not now. I need to cultivate now. You can wait at the side. Lin Xian was indeed going to cultivate. He condensed 3,000 hellfire and prepared to envelop his 9 yang divine body. This allowed his 9 yang divine physique to take another step forward. Good lad, I'll wait for you. Yin Tianfeng stepped aside and sneered. Lin Xian waved his hand, and the 3,000 hellfire dragons completely enveloped it. In the next moment, an extremely terrifying flame energy erupted, causing everyone's scalp to go numb. Was this kid crazy? Even Yin Tianfeng's eyelids were twitching violently. Such a cultivation technique was simply courting death. Lin Xian's divine body also cracked at this moment. It couldn't be helped. Hellfire wasn't an ordinary flame. It was an extremely terrifying flame. Lin Xian's physique was unparalleled among those in the initial stage of the Supreme Saint. He could even fight against those in the middle stage of the Supreme Saint. However, it still cracked at this moment. One could only imagine how terrifying the hellfire was. However, this was the effect he wanted. Lin Xian quickly circulated his divine body and began cultivating. The surrounding people sneered and waited. They felt that the battle would begin soon. After all, such cultivation wouldn't last long. However, 1 day, 2 days, 10 days passed. The other party didn't seem to have stopped cultivating at all. This shocked them. Some people couldn't take it anymore. They took out their Dharma treasures and elixirs. They had to leave quickly. Let's go up quickly. Otherwise, we'll be burned to ashes. These people left quickly. After another 10 days, Ling Long Shui and Han, you couldn't take it anymore. They also flew up. A month later, Yin Tianfeng's face turned cold. Damn kid, his physique is too terrifying. He can still hold on. Let's see how long you can last. He snorted coldly and turned to leave. The world quieted down. Only the endless hellfire was roaring crazily. Amidst the endless flames, Lin Xian was quietly cultivating. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. Everyone went crazy. Some people already thought that Lin Xian was dead for sure. Haha, this kid is really an idiot. He's probably burned to ashes. I think so too. Who can stay in such a terrifying place for half a year? Not even a supreme saint. Countless people sneered, thinking that Lin Xian was dead for sure. Yin Tianfeng also snorted coldly and left. Ling Long Shui and Hanya were extremely anxious. They wanted to go down to investigate, but they found that the place had become several times more terrifying than before. Even the two of them couldn't go down. Lin Gongzi, are you okay? The two of them shouted, but there was no reply at all. Damn it, how could this be? Could it be that he really died? If there weren't any changes here, they could still wait at ease. But now, the flames here were several times more terrifying than before. Such a strange change made them unsure. Naturally, Lin Xian also sensed the changes here. Lin Xian roared. His 9-yang divine body bloomed with a terrifying radiance and went up another level. His physique was already completely equivalent to a Supreme Saint mid-stage. Now he could compete with a Supreme Saint mid-stage powerhouse just with the power of his physique. This made him extremely surprised. That's great. But soon, he felt an even more terrifying aura sweeping toward him. What's going on? He didn't continue to descend, but the aura here became several times more terrifying than before. What had happened? He frowned. There was a golden light in his eyes as he looked around. There was a sea of fire around him. There didn't seem to be any changes. There didn't seem to be anyone. But at this time, his pupils suddenly shrank, and he looked down. There was a black shadow circling below his feet. It was extremely terrifying. The black shadow also suddenly raised its head. 2 flaming eyes pierced through the 9 heavens. Lin Xian felt as if his body was about to melt. What was this? Lin Xian took a step back in fright, but he quickly calmed down. Was it a demonic beast? There was actually such a terrifying demonic beast in the hell flames. He wanted to leave, but he found that the black shadow was already staring at him. Lin Xian's figure flashed, and he rose into the air. He wanted to leave, but the black shadow below roared and rushed up. An endless sea of fire rushed out. Lin Xian felt a huge pressure. In an instant, the surrounding sea was like a chain, entangling him. Chapter 4989. Humph! Lin Xian snorted coldly, unleashing his divine body, sweeping in all directions, causing the heavens and earth to tremble, letting out a thunderous sound. But that black shadow was extremely terrifying. Lin Xian attacked, but it seemed to have passed through the opponent. Was it an illusion? He furrowed his brows tightly. But at this time, the light in his eyes became even more terrifying. He didn't attack because he realized that the black shadow was actually a dragon, a hellfire dragon. Did the hellfire dragon really exist? Lin Xian was shocked. He stood there. The great dragon sword soul in his body covered his entire body, raising his head to confront the hellfire dragon. The giant dragon head swooped down, less than a meter away from Lin Xian. Lin Xian could feel the dragon flames of the opponent, which could easily hit him, but he didn't take a step back. Lin Xian spoke, so there was a dragon elder resting here. Sorry to disturb you. You're also from the dragon race? The dragon head's voice was very low. As it spoke, the sea of fire in the sky swept in all directions. Without waiting for Lin Xian to reply, it shook its head. No, you're not from the dragon race, you're a human. But why is the dragon aura on your body so terrifying? Speak, the hellfire dragon roared, and the flames of the entire hell canyon instantly rose. Those who were still cultivating all ran out crazily. Their faces were filled with fear, so much so that the surrounding people all sensed it. Damn it, what's going on? What happened to the hell canyon? Heaven and earth anomaly. Could it be that a strong warrior came? Or was there a peerless treasure in the Hell Canyon that was about to appear? Countless people looked at this scene, extremely shocked. This was something that had never happened in thousands of years. Facing the opponents questioning and roaring, Lin Xian was very calm. The great dragon sword soul in his body roared. Endless dragon-shaped sword energy flew out, sweeping across the 9 heavens. The hell-fire dragon's pupils shrank after seeing this. This is the great dragon sword soul. You're the dragon sword heir? That's right. I'm the dragon sword heir. Lin Xian nodded, not hiding at all. The hellfire dragon laughed. So that's how it is. No wonder I thought a human like you. How could your dragon aura be so strong? So you're the dragon sword successor. All this was explained clearly. Senior, you should be able to relax now, right? Lin Xian said, but he sighed inwardly. Although the other party's aura was terrifying, Lin Xian's eyes were terrifying. He could tell that this was just an illusion. In other words, the hellfire dragon had already fallen. Senior, do you want me to avenge you? Lin Xian said. The hellfire dragon was stunned, then said, You saw through it? Lin Xian nodded. He could tell that the senior had already fallen. The hellfire dragon said that he didn't die, but he left behind a wisp of his soul. If you really want to help me, then go to the bottom of hell and destroy a stone tablet. My remnant soul can enter the cycle of reincarnation. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll be stuck in this canyon forever, unable to leave. Lin Xian said, The flames below are too terrifying. I can't go in with my strength. The hellfire dragon said, Don't be afraid, I'll help you, and I'll give you a sword. Use it to shatter the stone tablet. As he said that, a sword flew out from the hellfire dragon's head. It was a divine sword burning with flames, the hellfire dragon's sword. Lin Xian was shocked. This was made from the hellfire dragon's most powerful dragon scales. It was an unparalleled divine weapon. Although Lin Xian had the great dragon sword spirit, it was only the sword spirit that circled around his body. The great dragon sword was long gone. Other than that, he had many sacred weapons in his hands, but he only used the great destruction spear. The peerless sword couldn't keep up with his improvement. Now that he saw the hellfire dragon sword, Lin Xian was overjoyed. With this sword, coupled with his peerless sword skills, his power would increase again. The hellfire dragon seemed to have seen through Lin Xian's thoughts. He said, As long as you help me destroy the stone tablet and let me enter the cycle of reincarnation, this hellfire dragon sword will be yours. As he said that, he even removed the soul imprint on it. Lin Xian felt even more at ease now. Thank you, Senior. He was overjoyed. This hellfire dragon's remnant soul was so terrifying that it made him feel like he was facing a great enemy. What kind of terrifying existence was it at its peak? It probably wasn't weaker than Senior Xia Jiuyo. It was at the peak of the great Saint Realm. It might even have surpassed the Saint Realm. So, the fire dragon sword left behind by such a supreme existence really made him happy. Next, the hellfire dragon's phantom brought him deeper into the Hell Canyon. He didn't know how long they flew. The surrounding flames were enough to turn a saint into ashes. Fortunately, Lin Xian was wrapped up. Otherwise, he would have turned into ashes long ago. Was it this stone tablet? Lin Xian found a stone tablet in front of him. It was pitch black, and he didn't know what kind of stone it was made of. But in the flames that could turn a saint into ashes, it was perfectly fine. There wasn't even a crack, and it had existed for countless years. This stone was too terrifying. Could he really break it? The hellfire dragon said, You have the hellfire dragon sword now, and you can mobilize the flames in the entire canyon. Let's begin. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He used the power of the great dragon sword soul and poured it into the hellfire dragon sword. The hellfire dragon's sword seemed to come alive, and the flames on it exploded. There was a dragon phantom surrounding it. Lin Xian slashed with his sword. The power of the entire sea of fire around him flew towards his sword, causing the power of his sword to increase exponentially. Boom! Lin Xian slashed with his sword, and the power that exploded was extremely terrifying. At this moment, the entire Hell Canyon shook violently. Flaming sword light shot into the sky one after another. The people outside the canyon were all stunned. What had happened? Even the powerhouses of the underworld were alarmed by this. One by one, they looked over. Oh no, it's the fire canyon. Did an accident happen? What accident could there be? Many people were shocked and puzzled. They all rushed over. Under the sword, the black stone tablet shook violently. Lin Xian roared and used the great dragon sword soul again. Since he had the power of the Hell Canyon, he never had to worry about wasting it. He slashed with his sword again. This time, the power of the great dragon sword soul was fully unleashed. Together with the Hell Fire Dragon Sword, it was really terrifying. With a clang, the stone tablet was sent flying into the distance. The flames in the entire Hell Canyon had become much dimmer. It was obvious that he used too much power in this sword. Lin Xian's hands were cracked. His face was pale. The art of immortality was quickly used to heal his injuries. At the same time, he said, "Senior, is it okay? Did you really break it?" The Hellfire Dragon was stunned at first, then laughed out loud. Ha ha! His voice spread to the 9 heavens. Thousands of worlds were collapsing. "Young man, you really surprised me. You are indeed the descendant of the great dragon." The Hellfire Dragon kept laughing. Lin Xian said, "Senior, you are too kind." The Hellfire Dragon shook his head. "No, you showed me the power of the great dragon sword soul. It's just that you are too weak. The great dragon sword can't unleash its true power in your hands. If you give it to me, I can become a great emperor. So leave it to me." Chapter 4990. He suddenly lowered his head. A terrifying flame burst out from his eyes, as if it was a divine fire. It caused Lin Xian's body to crack. Lin Xian roared and raised his sword to block. The power of the dragon sword spirit turned into a sword shadow and slashed forward. His face darkened. "Senior, I saved you. Do you want to repay kindness with enmity?" "Repay kindness with enmity? Ha 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 ha." The Hellfire Dragon laughed. "When I swept the world, a ball of fire could destroy a world. I fought with others, destroyed hundreds of worlds, and countless lives were turned into ashes. Even if you die, what does it have to do with me? I want the dragon sword spirit. Give it to me." He rushed over. Lin Xian's face darkened. He realized he was tricked. This was not a kind person. This was a Hellfire Dragon. He killed countless. He pretended to be innocent and pitiful to deceive him. With a cold snort, Lin Xian roared and slashed out with his sword. "You underestimate me too much. You might not be able to beat me here. You're just a remnant soul." He slashed out with his sword, cutting through the sky. However, it did not hit. The Hellfire Dragon instantly merged into his body. "Don't worry, I won't let you die. I will let your body exist as another life. However, your soul shall vanish into thin air from now on." "Possession!" He roared crazily and rushed in. Lin Xian felt as if his entire soul was about to split open. He felt the world spinning. Too strong. This was a supreme existence. Although it was just a remnant soul, it was still terrifying enough to make the world tremble. Such a strong soul. It could actually resist. The Hellfire Dragon was very happy. "It seems that not only do you have the dragon sword spirit, your soul and body are far beyond the Holy King. Even among the great saints, it is extremely rare." "That's great. With you, I can recover even faster." The Hellfire Dragon was very satisfied. He wanted to swallow Lin Xian's soul. But at this time, he was stunned. He realized that there seemed to be another aura in his body. It was even more terrifying. He rushed in. Lin Xian was shocked before he could even counterattack. He realized that the Hellfire Dragon did not attack his soul, but rushed towards the Sword World. "Not good," Lin Xian exclaimed. Inside the Sword World, Xia Jia was still cultivating, and this was a very mysterious world. If he was discovered by the other party, then it would truly be dangerous. However, the Hellfire Dragon was too terrifying. It rushed in an instant. Lin Xian was still a step too late. After the Hellfire Dragon went in, it found that he had left the canyon and even left Lin Xian's body, arriving in a mysterious world. This world was incomparably desolate and dilapidated, but there was a prehistoric aura that shocked him. He was dumbfounded. The huge dragon head swept across the land. He saw withered trees and even a valley full of vitality in the distance. Other than that, everything else was withered. What is this? He suddenly became excited as he thought of something. Could it be that this was that world? It was the legendary world. I'm coming in. I'm finally here. Ha 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 ha. Kid, I didn't expect you to give me so many surprises. With this world, who is still my opponent, they all have to listen to me. Lin Xian heard such a roar the moment he entered the sword world. He was stunned. Could it be that the Hellfire Dragon knew about this world and recognized it? The Hellfire Dragon didn't care about Lin Xian at all. He stared at the withered tree in an instant. Divine spring of life. That's great. With it, my soul can recover. However, an old thing like you is qualified to use the divine spring of life? Go to hell. He roared and spat out a ball of flames, charging towards Xia Zhiyo. Not good, senior. Dodge. Lin Xian exclaimed. Xia Zhiyo opened his eyes and similarly slashed over, tearing apart the sea of flames. His figure flashed and arrived in front of the Hellfire Dragon. A mere remnant soul dares to be arrogant in front of me. Suppress. An angry roar. An immortal king appeared behind Xia Zhiyo. It swept across the land and sent the Hellfire Dragon flying. The entire land was shaking. In the Four-Spirit Valley, the four spirit beasts were also alarmed. Damn, what's going on? This old man is actually so terrifying. When Xia Zhiyo came in earlier, they were still very jealous. Why could he sit on the divine spring of life? Now that he attacked, they were so scared that they were about to cry. This was simply a supreme existence that could sweep across the world. The spirit dragon exclaimed. Oh my God! The Hellfire Dragon was also a supreme existence. This was a fight between immortals. If this wasn't a mysterious world, and they were strong enough, they would have run away long ago. The fight between these two immortals didn't cause any cracks in the mysterious world. One could imagine how terrifying this world was. The Hellfire Dragon roared. Despicable old thing! You dare to hurt me! He roared and rushed over. However, the immortal king punched him again and pressed him to the ground. The Hellfire Dragon roared. Damn it, who are you? Why are you in this world? How can you still be alive? He couldn't imagine. He realized that the other party was not weaker than him. Although the other party was old and withered, he was still alive, and he was just a remnant soul. Damn it, if I was at my peak, how could you be my opponent? Xia Zhiyo snorted. You? If I was at my peak, I could kill you in one move. Stars flickered in his eyes, and he was extremely confident. Lin Xian was dumbfounded. Both of their attacks had such frightening power. Xia Zhiyo said, What's wrong with this little guy? Lin Xian said, I was tricked by him. He explained briefly. Then he asked Senior, How are you going to deal with this Hellfire Dragon? If he wanted to go out, he could use a sea of fire. The other party could resist. Since he was here, he could forget about going out. Damn it, do you still want to kill me? I am an immortal existence. The Hellfire Dragon roared. Xia Zhiyo sneered. No one in this world can't die. It's just a matter of time. No matter how strong you are, aren't you just a remnant soul now? I was tricked by someone back then. Otherwise, I would still be an invincible existence. He roared crazily. Xia Zhiyo ignored him. He used his power and started to seal the other party's soul. The Hellfire Dragon roared, crazily. However, in this world he couldn't use his power. He could only be beaten up by Xiaojuyo. Finally, he said, I surrender. If you surrender, you can go and open up this world. Damn old man, how dare you make me work for you? The Hellfire Dragon roared. His eyes were red. Then he said, What's wrong with this world? Isn't this the legendary place? Why is it so dilapidated? Could it be that this isn't the world I know? You talk too much. Xiaojuyo sent the Hellfire Dragon flying with a slap, slapping it into a chaotic place far away. Then he said, Go, and expand your territory. Lin Xian was stunned. How strong was Xiaojuyo? The Hellfire Dragon roared and charged back. Xiaojuyo's seal almost cracked the other party's soul. Damn old man, what did you do to me? You're tuning into the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.